And hello there, everybody. Thank you for joining us on this, for some of us, very late Saturday evening. But welcome, 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 and welcome. It's good to be back, everyone. We had a little bit of a delay last week. We had a little bit of delay getting back into this sort of campaign because last week, technical difficulties. But the show must go on, and we can continue this week with our wonderful all PoC 5e D&D campaign run in a homebrew world of my own creation. So we have some wonderful players here. Sadly, Aleta, our delightful MLG sniper knowledge clarifier Ganassi, will not be joining us this evening. We love you. We love you, Aleta. We hope you feel better and that stomach proves to be less of an issue. But I want to very much thank everyone here who's tuning in. We have actually been getting more and more hype as the weeks have been going on for folks to tune in and watch us. And I am very grateful to have more of us here. And in addition to being grateful for the folks watching us and for my wonderful players, we are also grateful for our lovely sponsors. So first of all, these wonderful sponsors are what allow this channel to run. First, we have Tabletop Loot, fine dice for all your gaming needs. Number two, Devin Rue, Mistress of Maps, amazing community supporter, helps us keep us going. And of course, So Nerdwear. So Nerdwear. It's what the nerds wear. Type exclamation point merch in chat and let people know So Nerdwear is the place where you can get awesome WTTP merch at a discount. Use code WELCOME to get 10% off your next purchase. And if you want to support this wonderful channel, the writers, the creators, the artists, and all these amazing people who are involved in this RPG community, Patreon. Type exclamation point Patreon in chat. Our Patreon not only goes to support the channel, but it grows to act as the incubator for all these amazing artists, writers, and more that we've explained that I've previously mentioned. So if you want to get some awesome benefits and keep shows like this and our amazing 3V Vibrant Visible Victorious on Sunday evenings one-shot series, join Patreon, best way to support us. And if you just want to be involved with all of the ridiculous hijinks and yeeting and memeing that occurs with all of our players, feel free to join our Discord. Type exclamation point Discord in chat and join the wonderful Welcome to the Party Discord community. And so before we get back into this game and back into the adventure and traveling, I'm going to do a little bit of an introduction of all of our players. Let's start it off with our most recently acquired new member of the team, Gemma.
Me? Oh.
Yes, you.
I'm Gemma. I play Lapu, a monk furbolg. And yeah, that's it for now.
Wonderful. Next, we are going to go with our previously absent and now returned Fiendy boy, Ant.
Hi, I'm Ant. I play Aya, the Hobgoblin Warlock.
See. Next, our ridiculous joke book spellcaster extraordinaire, Miriam.
Hi, I'm Miriam, and I play Didi, the sibling to Paya, and also a hobgoblin lore wizard.
Wonderful. And last but not least for this evening, we have the true shield, tank, and badass, like DPS, Lily. Wonderful. You're muted, Lily.
Hello, I'm Lily. Is that better?
Yes, you're coming through now.
I play Bo, the wild hunt shifter barbarian.
Wonderful. So with all of this out of the way, all the introductions. Oh, and last but not least, myself. I am Phoenix24 on Twitter. I'm Angela. I am what is known as the prelate to Ignis. I am the interpreter of the will of the divine bird, who hopefully will not throw too many random things at our wonderful players. Yet. That part comes later. But a recap to sort of bring us back into the world of Agni and what is happening with our players now. Having previously made their way in solving an issue of a rather plainer nature in the southern halfling haven of Avis, the crew made a decision to start heading off towards the northern region known as Chantico. In taking their time to cross, they encountered a rather curious vendor who in no small way is related to elementals or jinn or anything of that sort, and the form of a tabaxi merchant by the name of Kitaji. After some acquisition of a rather ridiculous spell book, whose contents have even yet to be fully understood, as well as the acquisition by our barbarian of, I believe, a giant meat bone of some kind that was met with much glee, the party continued on with a new guest adventurer, one of our guests, Kala. Following a little bit of journeying, the party stumbled upon a monument to what, after some checks were rolled, was found to be a god of fate known as Chronepsis, the Watcher. As the evening progressed, the party, taking some time to peruse the contents of the joke book and set up before continuing their travels, found themselves encountering a strange moth humanoid-like creature. While dealing tremendous amounts of damage, providing terrifying psychic effects, and generally being kind of spooky, the party did not in fact end up dealing any sort of fatal damage to this creature, but discovered that it was in fact what seemed to be a wandering messenger of fate that imparted a message to both Kala and our own barbarian, a vision of a terrain sprawling with vast, massive sort of pyramidal structures covered in murals that was sort of like compressed outward sort of designs to all of the buildings, and a massive statue of a very androgynous looking individual in the distance. Following that encounter, Kala split off from the group, and the party now deals with the aftermath of that confrontation, as that is where we pick up our current session. Lapu, for the sake of keeping you informed, will say that there was a bit of time where you were traveling ahead of the group, sort of to scope out, as I believe we had mentioned it last week before we had to do the unfortunate scheduling redo, that Lapu is just known to just kind of wander and just kind of be like, I'm going to go do my thing for a little bit. But you have returned roughly in the aftermath of this whole incident. And again, the creature that the whole party dealt with, to give a rough description of it for the purposes of the folks who were missing, was a 7-8 foot tall, effectively Mothman-like creature with giant bulbous red orbital eyes and moth feathery kind of wings that imparted this message that only Bo is aware of and Kala was aware of. But you are dealing with the aftermath of that. I believe it's the next morning, and that is where we find the party. So, what's going on with everyone?
I'm around.
I sort of look around to see how everybody's doing after what we've witnessed. And I think I had suggested at the end of the last session that we perhaps not sleep right next to or close to this obelisk. And I think we moved about 100 feet or more further, like an hour of walking further north, like in the direction we're going. And we slept there and woke up the next morning, or we were going to sleep there.
I do believe that was one of the last things that we figured out last session. The party did very quickly after this encounter decide to not be in the vicinity of this large monument, as it appeared to have summoned a cryptid. For anyone of our viewers are interested in knowing, yes, I had them fight the Mothman. It was kind of cool, but also terrifying. So that's a thing. But yeah, the party has slept, and again, it's the next morning. The sun has risen up. There is not quite an intense wind going about, but the traveling path that you see ahead of you just continues to veer on in this snake-like winding fashion, just heading north, well worn down.
As part of my preparations in the morning while I'm prepping spells, can I extract some inks from that little plant I bought?
Yes, and for Gemma and for Lapu and Baya's benefit, one of the things that was available during the previous session was getting to chat with a merchant for potential items to acquire. And one of the items that Dee Dee took time to acquire was a rather interesting plant that looks effectively, right now it's only in a small little sproutling sort of state that has fully started to grow out. But as Dee Dee sort of puts their hands closer to it and just starts pressing near some of the leaves, there's a distinct sort of inky-like substance that starts flowing out of some of these leaves that when a pen is dipped into it, it actually seems to function as magical ink for the purposes of transcribing spells. So yes, you are able to, remember, you have two spell levels worth of ink materials per day that you can get from that plant. But yeah, so long as you just take care of it daily, you have ink available on hand for you.
Okay. And I'm going to try to see if there's any spell in the joke book that would actually be something I'm capable of doing, which is out of character mechanics wise, something as a wizard I could start transcribing. And I'll try to find a spell of like level 1 or level 2.
Okay, let me see. Level 1 or level 2, you said?
Yes.
Okay, there are a few. I'm going to say roll me a d10, and we'll see
Okay.
what happens. We'll see what spell effect you conjure out of this book. 9. Okay, I'll pull that up right now. We'll see which one you were able to get. Oh, Lord. Okay. So you try peering through the book and just combing through some of the pages, and Baya, for your benefit, this looks like pretty much like a same kind of standards like stock like spell book any kind of wizard who's been working for a while has, but it looks the outside of the edges look kind of worn down. And in previous occasions when Dee Dee has tried to use a spell from this, you've gotten the impression that the person who transcribed the spells seemed to think of themselves as a very multilingual person, but all of the translations you've heard so far are terrible.
Goblin was the worst.
Like not just like, oh, they got like one or two things because the grammar was off, like whole entire sections of the sentence are incorrect and placed badly, or the wrong word is being used.
Bad Google Translate.
Yes, worse than Google Translate is the best way of putting it. So Dee Dee,
That's
worse. So Dee Dee, you read a couple of words from this, and I think do you have comprehend languages?
I will say, because I can ritual cast it, I spend the 10 minutes to get it going.
Yeah, I assume you're a competent wizard, and with 19 intelligence, you would think about these things ahead of time. So you cast this, and you're reading this like it's Sylvan, but it's really bad Sylvan. It's just like the sound, like half the sounds that should be pronounced are not. The sounds that shouldn't be pronounced are being pronounced. Like, from what you can tell, the instructions this person has written for themselves to say the words are just terrible. They're like, all of it is really bad. And like, you speak the word that when you translate it out from Sylvan should say mage hand.
Oh no. Mage hand is a cantrip, is it not?
Yeah, it's a cantrip. So you should be able to do this without any issue. Baya, would you mind rolling me a dexterity saving throw real quick?
Wouldn't mind in this case, but sure, I'll do it anyway.
Do it for the vine, my friend. Do it for the vine.
I do it for the vine. Oh, I did it for the vine, all right, with a 3.
So normally when a mage hand is summoned, it should just be sort of a kind of spooky spectral hand that lets you do minor things. What's summoned instead is Baya, you look up while Dee Dee's trying to like peer through this book and is just sort of for a second, like, we'll imagine as like absentmindedly says the last word before like they realize like what they're about to do. And you have suddenly a spectral cage that just gets trapped around your head that appears to have been formed from the extended appendages of a hand. You have created, Dee Dee, a cage hand.
This is why I wish you didn't go and pursue this method of learning magic. Can you get this off, sister?
And
Stop laughing.
I unsummon it, or try to if I can.
Yeah, so effectively think of it like if someone can roll against your spell save and it can provide, let's say, a 1d4 potential like reduction for one possible attack or skill check, but you have to focus on it. It requires concentration, has the usual range of mage hand and all the other aspects of it, but it creates an almost little spectral cage around someone's head whenever you cast it. It's also not very comfortable, like by a it's not like squishing your
Everything's
head, but it's like a very
slapping
tight football helmet level of like comfy.
Okay, so something I've never felt before since Baya does
Nope.
not play sports.
Nope. It's just very uncomfortable is the takeaway.
Sure, yeah.
Oh, I should have warned you that sometimes when I'm trying to learn or transcribe spells, odd things happen, and probably a 30-foot radius is a good clearance.
What? How am I supposed to always be 30 feet away from you when we set up camp? I guess I'd rather have, a cage appear around my head than like be picked off by some sort of wolf or bandit because I decided to sleep very, very far away. But you know what? Since you've said that, I'll prepare breakfast for everybody 30 feet away from you. just awkwardly, in the distance. Hey, everybody, I'm preparing breakfast. And I go and make something.
The cans are still there.
Wait, are we outside or are we?
No, you're in like full like open like plains travel road right now. There's like the most that you have is like a sort of side section that like occasionally with some parts of the path there's like a rise in sort of the hill landscape where you could be like tucked up against, but this isn't like you're in a building or like you have forest cover. Like
is there
you're out in the open.
Bush?
I mean, there is a privacy bush if you'd like one.
Because once I smell cooking, like Lapu will definitely come, like go to the group and just come sniffing around and like, I smell food.
You still have the helmet on your head?
I thought you dismissed it.
They did.
Yeah,
they did. It's just funnier to imagine that they forgot to dismiss it and it's just still like hanging on your head. Like, Bo, you've woken up to all of this probably with the food and everything. You woke up in time to see the spectral cage hand appear on top of Baya's head.
Yep. And Bo is just like, seems about right for this group. Well, seems about right for Didi and Baya, I will say.
I do have a question.
Yes.
For this spell, I was trying to transcribe it. Would I be able to transcribe it? And is it the wrong way of saying it? Or is it just I can, because I know that I can't really transcribe cantrips. That's something that is inherent with your levels and everything.
I'll let you have it. Like if you just it'll take about an hour's worth of time and you get the additional like cage hand effect. Because it's a cantrip, it's not going to be like game breaking per se, but it's just sort of, it's a small thing. Because again, you were trying specifically to shoot just for things within your level. Because I could have had you roll for the whole thing, because there are spells in there that, as far as you can tell from the initial reading of them, seem a bit above your pay grade, is a good way of putting it.
Okay. Well, because I already have mage hand technically, so.
Yes, you now have cage hand in addition to this.
Okay. I'll write that down.
So I look around to the group and just go, well, I finally caught up to you guys, to all of you. How's it going? And then I look at Bai and I'm like, apparently I missed a lot.
Oh, it's just spell testing, and this is not really part of the journey so much as being part of with a wizard, I guess.
I look at Didi expectantly, like I'm new to the group, but I already know that it's like Didi.
I close the book for the time being because breakfast is ready and we have a long day ahead. And I say, well, when we set camp, I might try to learn some more.
So while I'm doing that, I've noticed something, Angela. I've noticed that as an acolyte, I just have a book of lore that I took from the cult that I never looked at. So at this point, I would like to take out that little book of lore and see what is in it. Because
that moment when your players actually remember what equipment that they have and what their features do.
Because standard equipment is very vague. So I'm like, so this is not a book I picked out. It's just a book I was given. I'm just going to see what's
in it. Okay. You know what? Roll me a d4.
Sure. 3.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. Wait, actually, 1, 2. Yeah. Okay. We'll say that randomly determined, you have a book that tells you about some of the ashlands out west that has history and lore associated with that region, a lot of the historical context for the Draconic Wars that happened in that region, as well as recent rumors that have been documented as far as the cult knew, because they keep in touch and keep an ear to the ground about those kinds of things. So you would be able to, in terms of like out of character mechanics wise, ask me as the DM, like I'd say let's give it like 3 questions related to that terrain.
Okay.
That I would be able to give you a full comprehensive answer that Baya would know, given his particular access to the book. You'd have to take some time, like probably a couple of hours, to read through the full book to get all of that. But you could, I'd say, at least 3 questions would be what you'd be able to.
Sorry, I just missed what you just said. Did you say a couple hours?
Yeah, a couple of hours. Like let's say 1 hour per question.
I prepare to gift it to Alida, to Asarlath immediately. That's the case.
It's just like reading effort.
I just
that.
put it back.
Nope.
Nope.
Wrap it up now that I discovered what it's about.
This thing doesn't have fun.
There's no pictures.
Yeah,
I don't do a yeeting motion. That's my sister's lane. Stay out of it.
Just valuable. Well, Azerlath in that case has a book of lore that you can ask them about questions related to the Ashlands and a little bit more about what some of the Western territories are. Some of that will include a bit about a location that probably no one except maybe Bo has heard about called Rock's Arrival. But outside of that, like you have a book of lore that your knowledge cleric now has a lot more time to just take a look at and learn more about the world.
Make a note to formally give it to them next session, so I remember.
So yes, breakfast is being prepared. Baya, you can feel free to elaborate on what you believe your breakfast would be in that occasion, and also Bo, you still have the bone, like large meat bone that you were given by Kataji, correct?
Yes, I do.
Where's Bo keeping that, by the way?
It's in her backpack. She is
with marrow.
With marrow, yeah.
So I'm imagining like dried fruits that I'm rehydrating in water, dried meat that I'm rehydrating in boiled water, and also just like some nuts that I'm lightly toasting, maybe on like just some, let's see, I'll just say like some sort of small like pan of metal or something.
Yep, sounds legit. It's a very nice kind of aromatic smell, despite its rather simple sort of composition and such. It's a very lovely, just hearty kind of breakfast to keep folks going. But yeah, breakfast is served. You are all able to enjoy a nice sit-down moment following this evening of just weird with a random messenger of fate appearing and giving you a message, and the day is yours. If you'd like to continue traveling, we can continue on with what lies ahead.
Yep. Continue traveling.
All right. So you carry on for a fair bit of time, and the first few things that you see as you're looking out upon where the path's traveling and snaking up along this northern direction is you see blooms. You see vast arrays of flowers just that seem to, well, it hasn't really been, as far as you've traveled up to this point, too much rain as of late. It seems as though they have suddenly started to start reaching that point in the year where they're blooming in the last sort of attempts before winter starts to kick in. There's just vast arrays of reds, blues, yellows, and little patches of lavender. And it's quite a beautiful sight. It's very much like, imagine for anyone who's seen images of the wildfire blooms that have happened in California following all the fires that raged over there. It's just as far as the eye can see, while the previous path up to this point has been relatively barren, not like dead land, but just mostly well-worn trading sort of path and caravans moving along it. You just, as far as the eye can see, lining this road, reds, yellows, blues, purples, and lavender colors. And it's a rather beautiful sight. And with that being the case, I would like everyone to roll me a perception check.
Oh dear.
Okay.
It's not terrible every time I ask you to roll a check. I will add Azerla's perception to this.
I want to check out the flowers.
Yeah. So I'll say with Azerla, and because I'm going to change my name so that is what I'm working with right now. And Bo, Azerla and Bo, you're both able to notice that around some of the lavender flower patches, there's a very faint aura, almost a slight glow. And I'll say, Bo, with your exceptional perception check on that one, you see everything. You see into time itself. You notice actually that some of the glowing is coming from something shiny. You see actually a ring of crystals around some of these lavender patches.
A ring of crystals.
Yeah, they're just these beautiful, almost like, imagine like if you've cracked open like a geode and seen the sort of like swirling kind of like wave pattern and how they're layered because of how sedimentation is formed over time. Like these crystals are just more like, they're more in the size and shape of pumice, but they have that kind of same wave sedimented pattern to them. And they're these very rich hues of deep blue and purple, and even just slight little bits of like almost like blood red to them. But there's you more than anyone else can tell that like these crystals, they have just this faint aura, and they're shiny, and they're all around in like a clean circle around these lavender flower patches.
Bo is really curious about these crystals, like incredibly, but also she has learned that, some things aren't great to just grab. So I think she's going to call like everybody's attention to it, but especially Dee Dee, because Dee Dee seems like they would know how to handle this if we were going to collect a specimen.
Yeah, could I do some sort of arcane check to see if they're maybe magical in nature or something like that?
Are you thinking about the flowers or the crystals? Which one specifically?
Crystals.
Crystals. I would say an arcana check would be most appropriate for that one.
Okay.
Yeah, you've heard of these. They're very rarely used in an academy context because the people who tend to get a hold of them more often than not have tried to use them for nefarious purposes. That's why these particular ones are regulated quite heavily when used in an academic setting. But these have been known to have strong magical effects. And let's see which one.
Like, did someone place these here, or?
From what you know, because you rolled an 18, that's a pretty good check. You know that these are actually naturally occurring, that they're known as you're approaching more the boundary regions of the plains of Ruja, that these are known to just naturally occur, that they are often associated with these patches of lavender. And it's tricky. You know that they have something very distinctly like strong and magical, but you don't quite remember which direction they go in terms of if they're amplifying or if they actually act as a negation of magic. But these are very naturally occurring patches of crystals that are typically only associated with some of these lavender flower blooms.
I mentioned those. I say, oh, we just found a wild occurrence of these gems. They're really like they really help with magic use, but it's really hard. I don't quite know if it amplifies or negates it. Let me just try a little something. And
I walk 30 feet away.
Baya is now 30 feet away.
She's not reading from the joke book, though. They're not reading from the joke book, so.
Yeah, and I cast Chill Touch on the crystal to see if it works. Or actually, let me maybe not. All of my spells are not really fighty magic. I'm actually gonna.
Well, if it's not too fighty, I can. Since I have an elemental disciple, Lapu can try some elemental stuff on it.
Sure, just try to use a spell that casts something on a target object, because if it works, it'll either make it more powerful or it'll dissipate completely and you won't be able to cast it.
I'm gonna just cast a minor illusion while they're talking and make a little dancing like imp appear on one of the crystals.
Okay, so Angela, is it okay if I use the elemental attunement on the
Yeah. What is the range of your elemental attunement? I'll get to your minor illusion thing that's happening right in a second. Anne.
Within 30 feet.
Okay, so you have to be within 30 feet. For both of you, since you have to get within 30 feet of it, you realize it's a very strange occurrence. Baya, I would imagine is the connection. This is actually a question that I wanted to ask in character, so I can sort of narrate this in a good way. Baya, does it feel like the connection to your patron is often like constant? Is there ever like moments where it fluctuates, or does it tend to be constant, and the extent to which you make use of the powers and abilities of it just tend to change whenever you're actually using spells? Or is it just something that just wavers every now and then naturally?
I would definitely say pretty constant.
This is the first time in a while that you feel that connection, just like this. It's almost like the signal is getting dampened entirely. Like it's still there, no matter what, you still have the connection, but as you get within 30 feet, the signal just starts fading out incredibly, and you hear kind of a very annoyed pair of voices, one very deep and rumbling, and another one a little bit higher and more soothing and playful. Both express an exclamation in your head of anger, but it almost sounds like it's like being it has like intense reverb on it, and your connection is like dampened and no imp appears. And Lapu, as you try and reach out for the elemental attunement to just create, I'm imagining either like a little fire effect or a little water or wind sort of thing, it's also a very strange feeling for you as well, in that I would imagine you've been for a lot of your life, or at least since your training, been connected to the elements quite strongly. It feels like someone, like probably the best comparison I have is imagine Aang losing Avatar state connection. That's what it feels like to you. Like the connection to the elements is suddenly like almost
abrupt.
It just, as you got into the 30-foot like range of this thing in order to cast the spell or to make use of the attunement, it just
cancellation for me. How about for you, Lapu?
It's just gone.
I realize I have prestidigitation, so I join after a couple of like seconds and try to heat the crystal.
What's the range for prestidigitation?
It is 10 feet.
Yeah, DD. I'd imagine for a wizard it's a little bit different because you're normally like pulling from sort of arcane runes and studies, but as you try and like summon sort of the energy to do it, it feels like someone, imagine the sort of migraine level pain that happens like when you get a brain freeze. like it suddenly feels like, because a lot of your magic is coming and pulling from intelligence, from your knowledge, from your stored wisdom, like lore about how spells work, it feels like your brain is just having a moment of like short circuiting as you get within the 30-foot range of these things.
Ow, ow, okay, yeah, this is actually dampening, not amplifying. I'm just gonna step out here, and I step outside of the 30-foot.
Feeling a little bit, I guess, self-conscious, I'm going to turn to the watching of Sirlath and Bo and be like, we did try to do some magic right there. We weren't just standing there with our hands outstretched for no reason.
Yeah, I'm sure we all looked pretty awkward, but yeah, I start kind
Do
of.
I still have a headache?
Once you've moved past the 30-foot like range of it, it goes away in like instant. It was almost like it never happened.
Yeah, they're amplifying. So I mean, they could be worth a lot of money, but I forget. I'm not great at harvesting it, so I could just have like a major migraine just transporting these. I go back in to examine it, not try to cast anything, just to see if they're easy to extract, or if I recall as I'm examining it whether they were sort of like you had to be super careful with.
I'm going to be looking at it as well, but I'm curious, ignoring the annoyed voices in my head. I know that you mentioned there's sort of this sedimentary pattern to it. Is there any reason I can discern that that might have happened? Like, do I think this was this area formerly a riverbed and this is a natural occurrence plus water? Or is it just like, are some crystals older or some younger? Like, I'm just looking
I say
at the
roll me a nature check on that one. Dee Dee, roll me the same. Bo, I think you also were about to say something as well.
I mean, Bo is actually really curious about the properties of this, like possibly using it, but of course doesn't want it to, you know, damage or hurt her companions. Like, she has no magic at all. And I was like, I think she's kind of wondering, like, well, what will happen if I'm nearby? So I think she wants to walk closer and see if there's some reaction that happens to someone with no magic at all.
Okay. Bo, out of curiosity, what is the connection for you when you make use of the sort of spectral version of yourself or your ancestral guardians feature? What does that connection for Bo feel like? Like, does it feel like it's just something that is just constantly present for you, or is it just in that moment, like you have like a memory come by and then a version of yourself appears? Like, what does it feel like for Bo?
No, it actually feels like it's sort of part of her in the same way that like her sort of animal side is like part of her all the time. It's like they're inside of her.
As you get closer, Bo, as you get within the 30-foot range, it feels like for a moment imagine sort of the like Doctor Strange like spectral form like getting knocked out of you effect, where you feel just the component of your rage remains with you, that does not seem to be affected in any way, but the connection to the sort of spectral guardians just gets like, it feels like for you, for everyone it's been sort of distinct. For Lapu, it was the elements and nature feels suddenly broken off. For Baya, the connection is gone. For Didi, brain freeze. And you see Azerlath get a little bit closer, and it seems like they're just kind of staring worriedly at their holy symbol. For you, it feels like someone just suddenly apparated in front of you and gut punched you like as hard as they could.
Oh, she doesn't like that at all. She immediately moves out of range. Like, that is not a good feeling to her, to be separated from the aspect of the ancestral guardians, but also the aspect of her like shifter nature. Like, those, it feels like losing a part of herself.
It's no matter who it happens to, for all of you there's one common effect, which is that it's very uncomfortable. Like, it feels incredibly like someone just like you feel like a cold chill equivalent just past your shoulder. With your nature check, because I do want to get to that, but I'm going to give a couple seconds.
Sure.
The pattern with this and sort of the blooming nature of the area suggests that, rather curiously, this area seems to be getting more rainfall more often than a lot of the other areas, and it seems as though if you look a little bit more to the side of where some of the flower patches have been, that there's almost like still roughly holding together, but slightly softer earth that almost looks kind of like silt that is sort of like trenches that could have occurred if more rainfall were to happen. And as you're doing that, I'd say probably Lapu feels this the most. As you retune back to the elements, you just feel like a wind coming from the east pass by your back. And it's colder, and it's a cold that you associate for when rain is coming. And the clouds in the sky start building up. Just not like suddenly there is thunder, but you start seeing clouds are starting to build up.
Okay. Lapu feels the wind, and then with that sensation, they feel like you can kind of feel the air change, and then Lapu's ears perk up and they kind of look up at the sky, maybe a little sniff or two. And then I just go to the group and go, I think we should find some cover soon.
Do you want to set the camp back up, actually? I mean, Dee Dee, this could be an opportunity for you. Because if you look here, and I'm going to point out sort of where the divots from the rain are visible, I think that this is sort of in the path of some sort of stream bed when it rains. Do they know in the academy how these crystals form? Because if they don't, maybe we can do some of that field research you talk about sometimes. See if we can see, because it comes in layers, so I think maybe it has something to do with the water.
I look at you fairly impressed and I say, I guess I am rubbing off on you. Yes, this would actually be a great idea.
Well, I'm thinking, like if we can understand how it works, then we can just do it maybe indoors by dribbling water on some sort of like the same soil. I don't know. One of the cultists was more open about his hobbies. He was into geology, and they said that was safe for me to learn. Shrugs.
Yeah, I probably would like to. If we've actually reached close enough where we should probably rest for the evening, yeah, I guess that would actually be a good thing to do while we're camping and resting.
There is possibility there do seem to be sort of higher increases, like the sort of hilly terrain that happened at various parts as you were traveling along throughout the earlier part of the day, of the previous day. Once again, appear. There is like but it's not the most comfortable. Like you're all kind of gonna have to be like snuggling pretty close to like keep out of like the rain in total, but you would be able to find a suitable sort of like.
I'm the tallest. Come here.
I don't mind cuddling with everyone.
Yeah.
Because they don't mind me reading a book and having a little light source.
I'm just sort of like stiffly like, why are we doing it this way? Not setting up the tents again? Why are we doing a group hug? Not that it isn't nice, but the fur is sort of
with it all. Just like
field research. Sometimes sacrifices must be made.
Tickling my nose, Lapu.
I'm sorry. Is it my fur?
I don't know.
I don't even need a blanket, and I just snuggle it.
Yeah, is very important question. Are folks taking watch? Because as the night has progressed, you are able to set up tents, but like relatively to avoid the rain, you kind of have to all stay relatively close to one another to avoid a lot of the rainfall hitting you directly. But
I also put ritual. I put an alarm around our area.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
If we're within a 10-foot, as part of the ritual, I just alarm so that we don't actually have to stay awake. The alarm will ping me.
Okay. Is anyone else still choosing to be on watch anyways, though?
I think Bo would definitely stay up for at least the beginning part of the night while everybody else settled into sleep.
I think Paya's like flat on stomach, like this position, just like staring at the crystals, seeing if like something fun's gonna happen.
I also send my raven out to sit on top of our tent and be a guardian.
Okay. In that case, because Bo explicitly has stated that she is staying up for watch, I would like Bo, Didi, and Paya. Is Lapu staying up? Zerlath is probably going to try.
I was thinking of waking up early and maybe take a last, like, if it is split for two, take the last shift because
Okay.
Lapu would probably like want to do like take watch and probably do a light meditation.
Okay. In that case, I would like Bo, pretty much everyone except Zerlath. Zerlath is just chilling out and is like, rain, fire. I am staying out of all of this.
Here's my book.
Like,
Yep.
like, fuck this shit, I'm out.
Nope.
Like, but basically everyone else roll me perception check. I believe Didi, you have, I think Raven has advantage on certain things.
Yep.
And
well, it doesn't have advantage, but I don't know why.
I don't think you need advantage. The first one was a crit.
Yeah, but I actually need to figure out how to make sure it doesn't always roll with advantage.
It's okay. I always take the left result first anyways. Okay. That's how I've always done it. So yeah, nobody notices anything. The rain, for the most part, is just tuning out a lot of this. You just hear it just going pitter patter, pitter patter, pitter patter, pitter patter, pitter patter across the dirt. And I'd say Paya, because what you are able to pick up, you are more distracted because you're looking at the flowers. The crystals with the water tending to the lavender blooms near it, they do start reacting quite nicely, and they don't get bigger, but you do see the crystals glow like a little bit brighter, but it seems to overlap with whenever the water is hitting the lavender blooms. Like once a good amount of water hits a few of the flowers and they look like they're being like well hydrated, the crystals react to them and start doing like for anyone who's ever taken an airplane ride, if you know the little lights along the main like pathway that goes right through the middle of a airplane, the little like flickering lights, imagine those getting just a little bit brighter and then calming down. And that's just happening throughout the entire evening, for however long you take a look, but you don't notice anything else. Lapu, you do notice something, and the Raven also does notice something as well. You hear out in the distance, it's very loud. There's nothing quite lightning or thunder happening, but just the pitter patter is happening with the flowers consistently throughout the evening. But through all of that noise, you hear a baby. You hear the cry of a small child.
Is it me? It's Lapu, and who else heard it?
And
The
my
Raven.
The Raven.
The Raven sort of turns its head in the direction, cocking its ear to the sound.
Raven, and then I look at the direction.
And following that, like about an hour and a half after that point, you just start hearing ooh, 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 like an owl. But because you rolled well enough for it, it's coming from roughly the same direction you heard the baby cry coming.
My Raven will probably go check it out before it wakes me up. We'll just fly. And it's basically sort of like a scout. It's not trying to get into a fight because it has like 1 hit point. Also, as for the spell, it actually cannot fight back. It just is like ears and eyes.
Okay.
I think Lapu will kind of gets the hint what the raven is doing. So I think Lapu will just be on guard and wait for the raven to come back and see what if the raven is will come back and see.
Dee Dee, would you mind rolling me another perception check real quick?
With the raven?
Yes.
Dang.
Dang, my raven's doing
That raven.
better than me.
That raven's
So Raven.
that's so raven.
Dee Dee, your Raven is able to turn just in time
Ooh.
and very narrowly avoids a large talon claw reaching out to try and yank it out of the air.
Yeah, it flies straight back and pings me awake. And I just get up and I sort of just telepathically ask what's happened, shows me the talon, and I'm like, there's another creature out there somewhere, I think. And
Dee Dee, before you continue on for telling the group, there is one other thing you are able to see before the Raven almost gets snatched.
yeah.
Let me see.
Ooh.
Let me pull up the exact description I have for this. I do have an actual one. It's strange. Does the Raven have dark vision, by the way?
No, it does not.
Okay, so you really only get sort of the outline of this shape, but it's a very weird outline from the perspective of the Raven. It looks like the top half of this creature is a very old woman. Just like we're talking full on deep crevices and wrinkles, very deep brown skin, almost kind of like pigtail like braids that are white and white, silver, and gray hair. And there's almost like a very pretty sort of white top pattern with trim around the neck of red and blue flowers and a shawl of black and white feathers around the neck. But behind the creature, there appears to be massive wings, feathered, extending out 15 feet in each direction. And the lower half of this creature, the feet, they don't look like they're resting like this, like a normal humanoid. They're almost arched, kind of like almost bird-like.
So like a harpy like
Yes.
creature of some kind.
But once the Raven seemed to have gotten away from it, the creature, like it let out a screech, like a low one that only the Raven was able to hear, and then it started darting away.
Away towards us or away?
No,
away
just away. Like it's running away from the camp.
Okay. So the Raven will use mimicry to make the sound that the creature made, just to go like. It has mimicry as a feature.
Okay.
I'm gonna flinch and be like, "Why?"
Yeah.
And I sort of get the information and I describe it and I say, it seemed to run away, but it might come back and it can fly.
Well, tell your Raven to stop doing like the mating call or whatever.
I was like, that's okay, Kawa. It's okay. I get it now. Good boy.
Like just pecking your shoulder, like
Yeah.
Kawa is not happy about this whole thing. Kawa's just like,
It's okay, Kawa.
I'm gonna go and seeing that my sister doesn't seem like that concerned and still keeping an eye on the Raven sister interaction. I'm gonna go to the crystals and try to nudge them further from the lavender to see if I leave a patch of empty soil, does another crystal sprout up, or does that crystal still glow or not?
so you're moving the crystal away from what spot in the formation?
Yeah.
Right as you do that, it's been sort of almost like, think like a heartbeat level of like pulsing around all the crystals.
Uh-huh.
That heartbeat just stops. It just like dims out and it just stops.
I try to move it back into the formation.
Heartbeat begins again.
DD, why is this happening? This is so weird. Come over here. Look at this. And I move it out, and I move it back, and I move it out, and I move it back.
Huh.
Yeah, Baya, I'm gonna note just for you because you're the only one who's like everyone has had their unique experiences with the effectively anti-magic lavender field.
Right.
But you are having the unique experience of you are now hearing several different voices beyond the two you got used to hearing that are screaming angrily at you to stop doing that.
Okay, but like you're getting beat by little rocks. Up your game, man. I gotta keep doing it.
Baya, would you mind making me a wisdom saving throw?
Yeah. I am.
Oh, you are on point tonight.
Dang,
Yeah, you have a moment where you suddenly feel like your body is starting to make a fist at you and start to punch you in the face. But it's in that moment you're able to move the crystal back again and you gain control of your body once again. And
My sass is too strong.
Sass game is too strong tonight, my friend.
No, but seriously, DD, do you know why this is happening? I thought maybe I could cause it to grow more if I removed what was already there, but it seems just to be interrupting it.
Do I recall anything like from my information of what I remember of the rocks? Like, again, like harvesting procedures, or whether you have to basically transplant the entire ring or something.
The what you discover, I'll say, because Baya has taken the time to actually move the crystals, what you recall now more in detail is that these are just sort of naturally occurring zones of effectively dead magic, that they are often have to be reconfigured, go through multiple like refining processes to be used and converted into things that would mechanically be used for the purposes of an anti-magic field spell. In and of themselves, so long as they're in the formation, they create that aura and radius of non-magic. But once any one of them in the formation is moved, it ends. And it's not something where you can take the effect. This is the strangest comparison I can give you, but it should get the point across. It's the equivalent of you were to say, oh yeah, I have these anti-magic crystals, so I can obviously cast anti-magic. It's the same thing as if I have coca leaves, then I can make cocaine. It's like, yes, but that comparison does not work because cocaine actually has to have multiple additives added to it and go through refining processes. That's where you're at in the stage process. You're at the coca leaf part of it, where this is just a natural occurrence that you can't really do anything with them. They just sort of are a natural environmental hazard.
Hey, Chu, we do not endorse cocaine, just so you know.
Yeah, that's very clear. We do not endorse cocaine. This is your DM. This is DM having a moment of.
It's a metaphor.
The metaphor.
Or perhaps it's like sugarcane. Like you could just chew on it and there's like some sweetness, but to actually get white sugar, you need to have to go through multiple processes.
Exactly. Like this is like you have the base components, but you need to go through a refining process to make them viable.
Or cocoa tree, like chocolate.
Like those.
Not coca, cocoa.
Cocoa, not coca. Coca is different. Coca leaves are different. Anyways, we're very not white in this group and realizing this.
Yeah, so I try to explain that naturally they have this effect, but if we were to remove it and try to recreate it on our own, we can't do it until multiple processing has happened such that it can occur without being in the soil.
But so you're saying only this shape works? Don't you learn any other sort of fun geometries that we can put the crystals in?
It's not the configuration that's the actual way you place it that's the issue. It has to be treated and shaped such that it can then be used in any formation and does not need to be planted.
I look at my sister with like all the disappointment of like, you've been through so much school and all you can tell me is that nothing will happen. And then I'm gonna like pick up crystals and I'm gonna spell out fuck in Infernal and see if that does anything.
Hold on 1 second, because I have a dice for this. I just want to see. I want to check something.
I sigh as this is as you're rolling, and I say, it's the cocoa pods and the cocoa beans, or like the coffee beans. You can't.
No and no.
Wait, you've never had chocolate or coffee? Really?
I mean, I had them. What does that have? You mentioned 2 beans. Yes, I've had coffee.
Yes.
I've had chocolate before.
Yes. So those come from, and I sort of pick up like whatever dry rations I have. It's like, imagine this is a cocoa bean or a coffee bean.
Okay, it's a bean. I understand that.
Okay. So you can't just eat this, and I sort of gnaw it and expect to have chocolate, or boil it and expect to have coffee. It has to be treated in such a way that it can be edible and made into the drink.
So well, the coffee I'm used to is just like a powder. So are you saying I should smash the crystals?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that
right at this moment, as you're saying, you should not
leave them alone.
Yeah, right as Bo was saying, we should leave them alone. As the crystals have finished setting in place, spelling out fucking infernal, for whatever reason, right as the connection is about to be made, Faya, you feel like a sudden jolt of energy release down your arm, connect to the crystals, and you feel 3 scorching rays suddenly fire out in your direction. However, and I'm not lying about this, I rolled a 2, a 5, and a 5 to hit you. So even with a +5 to each of those to roughly reflect where you're at in terms of skill and what have you, doesn't do jack diddly squat. You just suddenly have to dodge as Dee Dee drops the beans, and they are suddenly very cooked.
I did a thing!
Yeah, perhaps you shouldn't be playing with magic you don't understand.
Then how are we supposed to learn anything about this? This is so interesting. Let me try something else.
You should
physically restrain Paya.
Oof.
Paya, are you resisting?
No, I mean, like, if my sister's restraining me, I'm just like, ugh. Where's your academic curiosity, sister?
I have academic curiosity, but I also know what the fuck I'm doing.
You're doing nothing. You were just going to, like, let them sit there and do their anti-magic thing.
If you want to get cooked, be my guest. And I just sort of just walk 30 feet away and just...
By the way, at this moment, right before, as the rays have gone by, Lapu, Bo, you both suddenly start to smell the very faintest scent of burnt herb and hair. And Bo, you because your hair, it's like very long, sort of like
it is.
Yeah, very, not that much of it, but very much the ends of it are singed. Like talking like bad split ends level of it. So not like that much of it comparatively to the whole hair, but like it's noticeable that you start smelling burned hair. And Lapu, top of your head, faintest like spot around it.
Bo is scandalized. She's looking at the end of her hair like, no.
And I do the see sort of a look.
I use elemental attunement to like have like squirts of water like to put on my head, and I like do a finger moment and like put some on Bo's singed hair just in case. Like
I'm spelling out other random words in crystal.
Baya, stop. Please.
I look at Baya and like, please stop now.
When it affects my hair, I have to say stop.
I look around. Is there like a place further out, even if it means I get more wet and am more vulnerable to harpy attacks, that I can do my experiments in like not hair singeing range? Or is this the only patch?
There are patches nearby.
Okay. What if I go over there and use those patches so that you don't get hit by, I don't know, hair product messer uppers?
I sort of sigh and I mentally command Kawa to keep an eye on my brother as I head back to bed.
I'm gonna snap so that my sprite is outside the tent, so that if something happens to me, the sprite will disappear and make a sound. And then I'm gonna go and keep experimenting.
Lapu looks at Didi and goes, "Your brother seems very stubborn. Would you like me to watch out for him?"
Sure, if you want, but I found that sometimes, let the kid burn their hand touching something hot. I mean, that's how he learned that he shouldn't be touching a pan on the stove without a pot holder. And then I just face flop and go back to bed.
What time of the day is it?
This is
It's
nighttime. This is like you're all trying to sleep. This is like everyone is trying to set up for the evening to sleep. This has all been just hijinks that's happened.
Oh my god.
Like
Midnight.
Bo is still like
Watch it.
brushing at the edges of her hair, but she's also like, are we gonna talk about this harpy or just
Bo is the only reasonable adult of this entire group is effectively the takeaway. Well, Bo and Lapu.
I do this and I say, alarm, we're fine. We'll know 10 feet if something's there that shouldn't be.
Oh, it's 10 feet. That's good information.
The DM.
I can put the alarm spell. Well, it's an area that you ward off, like a 10 by 10 cube. Or there.
No,
20 foot. Sorry,
Okay.
20 foot.
Yeah, Baya, the next patch is about 30 feet away.
I skip over jauntily and continue to see if I can find any combinations that are fun. I avoid doing the fire one again because
Bo says to Didi, can you like mark a square in the ground of where this alarm is protecting?
I mean, it's pretty easy. We're in the center, 20 foot in any direction around it. That's where we're safe.
So right now, Baya's outside of the safe zone.
This funeral.
Okay.
I'll watch over your brother and just nod at Didi, and then I just kind of just walk to where Bai went, but I keep my distance. Like I give him his space to
experiment with the lavender flower crystals that obviously
I touch my hair and already remember it, like just having the empathic feeling of being singed.
Are you sure you want to come closer? I mean, the whole point of me moving away was to avoid, stuff.
Well, there have been talks of harpies and other things, and I just want to make sure everyone's okay.
I said it went away. I'm sure it'll be fine. And then I keep doing things.
I smile and nod my head, and I just stay put.
Okay.
I sit like put my back up against a tree, just watch the environment.
Yeah. Baya, how long are you out there testing things?
Like if any 20-minute period does not yield any new result, I'm gonna start jotting down like results that I find. But if any 20-minute period doesn't result in anything, I'm going to stop.
Nothing happens after that point. You spend like a good 20 minutes like doing various like incarnations and like modes of moving around the crystals, but it's just a very long period of hearing very frustrated voices in your head going back and forth, yelling at you more angrily each time. And it's right about the end of that 20 minutes that you get the suspicion that it was more likely your patron was very angry at you for what you've been doing, hence the scorching rays being fired off.
I look mournfully at the crystals and I look back at Lapu and I said, I'm getting the feeling that the fire wasn't even from the crystal configuration. I can't get anything else to work. And the voices in my head are getting noisier.
Lapu tilts their head and goes, it's not the crystals and voices in your head?
Patron, Warlock, have I mentioned it to you specifically, or was it too brief?
I think it was a bit brief, but I've definitely never seen your patron act out in this way, if that was who.
The suppression interferes. Well, we're away from camp right now, and, everybody's asleep, so if you have questions, you can ask. I'm done with the crystals. I don't think they're going to do anything else.
Ah.
Or if you want to just head to bed, I'm okay with that too.
Well, we can. I am curious about your page. Is that why you are traveling with your sister?
No and yes. We're like leaving behind a cult, right? So they sort of made this happen. And they enjoy, I don't know, like I was useful to them. And so it was something that was, not ideal, being a tool for a cult, and so we're leaving. That's all the connection that there is really to the group. I mean, I guess she's someone they worship, so I guess that's also relevant. But as far as voices, it's just they're responsible for putting it in me, and so now my sister has some idea that we can get rid of it. I'm just sort of glad to explore the world. I think for the first 16 years of my life, I was basically just the compound and like targets we would attack. So this is probably the furthest I've been.
Lapu smiles at Bai and goes, I can definitely relate to that.
How so?
Oh, well, I don't hear voices, I don't think.
I think that's a healthy thing. Don't know, since that's been my life since I'm 5, but I'm pretty sure that's good.
But I am known to be, what's the word, absent-minded. But in my monastery, it's all I've known. So to be out with the group together, it is quite nice to explore things on my own and to find people that actually can actually accept other views.
The world's such a big place, And I point to the crystals. And then I look at your hair and I retract my finger and I'm like, okay, maybe not the best example, but I've never seen this before.
I just laugh and it's all right. And I'm like, you're right. It truly is a very big place. But I'm glad, I'm sorry to hear that it was your patron that caused the fire. I hope everything turns out well for you and your sister. But we should head back.
You mean like the 20 feet over there to sleep?
Mm-hmm. Sleep.
Okay, fine.
Very good right now.
I dutifully toddle over back to the tent to sleep.
The rest of the evening passes without any further incident. No more hair singeing, no more patron-related voices or yells. For the most part, it's just a lot of rain. Rainfall all around you, rainfall falling on the dirt, very slight sounds, just slight decompressions happening very slowly over the hours and rests that occur. The morning arrives, and not much about the area seems to have changed other than the spot spaya that you noticed the previous day of where there might have been trenches. The silt, the top layer for the dirt seems to have started to sink down a lot more in some spots, and you see that there are more plants and more blooms that were hidden beneath the top layer starting to sprout out among some of them. And oddly enough, sort of around your camp, there's a lot more of them that have also sprouted up as well. But what would everyone be doing in the morning as you're waking up? It's been a very cold and relatively wet night. You've stayed for the most part kind of dry in your tents, but it's been still, like, even getting up, it's still kind of humid and it's still a very wet kind of vibe of anything you're stepping around. But what would people be doing?
Prestidigitate myself dry. And I do my ritual of extracting some juice and making sure the plant's still okay, and also trying to see if there's another spell I can actually transcribe.
From the joke book?
Yep.
Okay. Let me pull this up one more time.
Oh, you
when
know I'm gonna
Rose
do this
sees
every
Dee
day.
with the book, she's like, I think I'm gonna go for a run.
Before that, can you give me your pack, Bo? And also all of you. I just want to sort of wipe them down, make sure they're dry before we head out.
Okay.
Okay, Dee Dee, roll me a d10.
Oh, fairly. Okay. 7.
Let's see, I'm going to roll for this. So there's 1, 2, 3, there's 4 of you. Okay. I'm going to roll a d4 to see who this hits. 3, that's going to be Paya.
Okay.
I'm trying to wipe the packs right now.
So, Dee Dee, you're looking through this, doing the comprehend languages. This time you're seeing something written in Giant. You probably have not studied Giant very much, more likely overheard it.
But Lapu knows Giant.
Yeah, Lapu,
I do.
it's offensive to your ears, like the level of how badly translated it's like it's to the range where like Dee Dee's reading out it and you're like, you haven't heard your family members insult each other that badly in terms of like
My Lapu's ears just flattened down and is just like, I'm just horrified, and I'm like, Dee Dee, you shh.
But right as Dee Dee finishes saying the last one, you see 3 little nodes suddenly appear at the end of Dee Dee's hand that form these little blue-gray, tiny, almost dart-like shapes.
Uh-oh.
Oh,
That's not good.
no.
I turn
That-
around as they're saying, oh, and I see it, and I'm just like, oh. Just like,
And then you just see like basically like think like Ip Man levels of like multiple punches but with little force darts that all start hitting Paya.
I
But
take it with the most deadpan face I can.
but Paya, out of curiosity, do you have, I'm trying to remember for like your appearance purposes, do you have, what is your hair? Do you have hair again? I'm trying to remember what like Paya's hair
I
is.
have a little bit of silver hair. I don't know, like I can upload the picture again in our shared Discord so you can see it. But yes, I do have silver hair.
Okay, and you have staff that you use for walking around, and yeah, so that's 2, and then the third one. Okay, so what ends up happening is that the 3 different spots that hit all across your body, one hit ends up targeting your quarterstaff, one hits your hair, and the third one hits you across the face.
Oof.
The one that hits you across the face, none of these do damage. However, you just have very, very like cartoony-esque sad faces all across your face now that look like a pattern of bruises. Your staff suddenly shrinks a foot in its size,
What the?
and your hair is we're talking like butch buzz cut levels of short now, like very short. Didi, you look over the page. You probably, Lapu, you're able to look over their shoulder and see the translation should be for magic missiles. It appears to have become tragic missiles.
You said something about knowing what you were doing.
That's fine. That'll wear off.
You were super rude about it last night too.
Look,
And now my hair's gone. And my walking stick is a ruler.
go stand in the anti-magic field. You'll be fine.
My ears are still down, but Lapu kind of nods and goes, "That buzz cut though."
No, not that buzz cut though. I'm gonna go sit down in the anti-magic field. But also I'm gonna be like, okay, give me your pack so I can like wipe them down. Didi, give me your pack and stop reading that stupid book.
It's
Bo,
okay.
you can
I'll
see
take
this.
care of my back.
Bo, you can see by like everyone in the camp can see what has happened to Baya's whole appearance.
Yeah.
Except me.
I mean, you know, Bo is like older siblings, I guess.
It's like
Poor
Bo,
Bo.
do you have a mirror?
Bo's response just like,
Not have a mirror.
sorry, bro.
Me.
Any of you have a mirror? My face feels like it's just been slapped very softly a bunch.
It's fine. It's great. It's you got a new haircut and yeah, it's awesome.
You were talking about how important your hair was also just last night.
I mean, there is a difference between getting a haircut and getting your hair like burned off.
Yeah,
No, there's not. That's how you get rid of your hair sometimes.
I'm pretty sure there's a difference.
It is not how I get rid of my hair.
Well, this is not how I get rid of my hair either, okay?
I mean, I think it'll grow back, right? It was just a magic.
I think your hair will grow back from the fire too. Okay.
Okay, well, I guess that's fair enough. That's true. That's fair.
Don't talk to me, and I'm going to go off.
Don't talk to me.
We've barely begun the next day, and Paya is already done with everything. Paya, you go to one of the patches that you can see, and you see that the formation of crystals has now oddly lopsided and off from what it was before. Roll me a dexterity check real quick.
Today is not Baya's day.
Nope.
Yeah, you're a little still taken aback by this whole conversation happening, and you fail to notice in time. Let's see.
Is it a talon? It's a talon.
It's not a talon. Okay.
Oh, it's the armor. Hasn't described what happened to the armor.
Uh-oh.
A mass of writhing vines suddenly emerges from out of the ground
Oh no.
and just goes, and you are currently grappled by a set of vines.
Do we see that?
Did we see
Yes,
this?
you all
Doing
see
it, I
this.
think?
Whoa.
Does it just wrap me up and like continue constricting, or is it just wrap me up and I'm just like, God damn it, this is awkward again?
More of the latter is where we're leaning, but as this is happening and the vines are starting to constrict around you,
Yeah.
you look up to your right, and you start seeing emerging from the ground, not very big, like we're talking still in the range of like a small creature, but a collection of these lavender flowers
Oh.
have created sort of like, think almost like a Venus flytrap style mouth that is slowly going in your direction to try and bite you.
Oh.
Oh,
I mean, Baya, this is all on you this time.
Oh.
Nothing to do with Dee Dee.
I chill touch that.
I'm just lying there like the cults may have been better. Why is everything taking a turn for the worse? And I'm gonna shoot some eye beams at it with Eldritch Blast if I can.
Roll for attack, Didi. Roll for all everyone who is doing an attack. Nope, that doesn't work. Nope.
Yeah, too constricted.
The funny thing is, this thing has an AC of 11. It is not hard to hit.
Yeah.
I guess Bo is going to take out one of her axes and try and, like, chop at a bit.
Just roll for an attack, Bo.
Okay.
Lying there restrained, I will say, I have never seen you so half-heartedly use that axe in my life.
That hits, and one slash, Bo, you cut this thing straight in half.
All right.
Okay.
Oh.
Bow.
By,
That was me
Bo,
not even trying.
yeah, Bo's just like, you
I
did
was
it
just like,
again.
okay.
Is
Lapu, Baya, and Didi roll nature checks for me. Lapu at advantage.
okay. So how does advantage work? I do it twice.
Just do your normal. Yeah, either do it twice or just roll it once, and it should put up an advantage for you. But just click your nature check.
Okay.
There's a toggle at the top.
Oh.
It's the same thing for both of them.
Oh.
Lapu, you realize that some of these lavender blooms remind you of home. That these are called flytrap. These are lavender flytrap blossoms, which normally are harmless and generally don't have any sort of sentience of their own or any sort of pose any danger to the group. However, in conditions of extreme rain, they activate, and think of the way that when yeast gets activated in bread and starts expanding, they expand, grow, and start collecting together to form full-on appendages. They are not hard to hit. Bo's double killed it with that one hit. But they're generally they're a natural occurrence in some regions, pretty common to areas near the plains of Rudra. And Baya was unfortunate to step directly into a patch of them.
I'm already restrained and thus horizontal, right? Even though the vines have been chopped off?
Yeah, actually, I don't know if Bo has actually chopped you free from the vines. Bo has killed the thing, and it's the only one in the patch. But you all are starting to see the patches within 20, 30 feet of you starting to get a little bit bigger.
Yeah, we should
go.
Yeah, we should go.
Not be.
Flowers anymore.
I wiggle in
If it's dead, can I just offer him a hand and pull Baya free?
Yeah, Bo, you're strong enough to just it's the equivalent of someone being stuck in sand and you just going
I'm gonna
sort of pull him away from the vines, and they all snap. Someone else without your level of strength, it would be wow, that was pretty rough to just randomly do that. For Bo, it's just
Yep.
I'm gonna take as many crystals as I can as I'm coming off of the ground and just move away from the flowers afterward.
Yeah. Y'all are able to do this, and y'all are able to start going about your way.
Yeah, I just start herding. Let's keep going now. Let's
Yep.
Purple
Move
flower.
along.
Wait, how far do these purple flowers move, Lapu? You seem very concerned about them all of a sudden. Can they get up and walk?
You know what? I'm usually not nearby to find out. So let's get a move on.
Yeah, I'm already sort of cleaning up and everything going.
Yeah. You all are able to get your things together, and you're able to move safely without too much incident as the flower blooms. These are very slow. We're talking less than a roper's level of movement, and a roper moves 15 feet total at its max speed. We're talking 10 feet of movement per round. So you easily clear past these things, but it's just really awkward and weird to just see like lavender flowers and blooms just start like getting up. And that's the weird start of your day. And you're able to get on the road and start traveling for about half hour 45 when, and we're going to be, for viewers, we're going to be cutting to break very soon. We'll leave our players off on everyone in the party hears gah, gah, bird call. 2 of them up in the sky, descending down towards your party, landing about 20, 30 feet away from you, starting to munch on what appears to be another set of flowering blooms that haven't quite awoken yet. And as of yet, they don't seem to have noticed your presence. But that is where we are going to take our break as two griffin-sized creatures start flying down.
We should just steer clear of them.
They're clearly friends. They're eating the.
Wait, are they in front of us?
Yes, they are on the path, like just along the sides of the path. Like just currently they've just made a call from what you've heard above, and they just flew down to the sides of the path. But they're just eating blooms, but they are right along your path. And
there's 2 of them.
There's 2 of them.
On each side. Like...
well, not 2 on each side. There's 2 total, 1 on each side.
Oh, 1 on each side. Sorry.
1 on each side. 2 total, 1 on each side.
Okay,
but
so they're kind of like guarding the pathway.
I mean, you can interpret that way if you'd
I
like.
don't want to.
Okay.
It is up to you.
We'll find out.
We'll find out. But thank you to our wonderful viewers for tuning into this rather hectic and hashtag poor Baya episode that we're having right now, because comedy of errors doesn't begin to describe how this has been going for this whole thing. But yeah, we will be back very soon. We're going to take about a 10-minute break, and then we'll be back on for more of hijinks as our party is now dealing with 2 large bird-sized bird creatures in their path. We will see you all soon in just a little bit.
Bye.
And welcome back, everybody. Thank you again for joining us this evening as we continue this 5e D&D all POC campaign adventure with our lovely group of hijinks-causing adventurers and their joke book, which I am forever grateful that my community at WTTP has given me multiple suggestions to fill this joke book with. So this is not the end of what DD will be able to create.
And they're now transcribed in my books.
So remember, these things can happen again and again and again.
Tobiah.
Yeah. But yeah.
I didn't mean to. Look, when I tried it the first time, it just happened randomly.
It's canon.
So where we found ourselves before we ended up in the break is that the party had been traveling away from a patch of lavender bloom, sentient lavender bloom man-eater traps, effectively, to reach a point along the road where, as they've been traveling for a little part of this day, two griffin-like creatures, massive birds of almost sort of lion-like kind of proportions in terms of their main body, have flown down and gone by a couple of these patches alongside the road. Currently, they do not seem to be aware of the party, nor do they seem to be actively hostile towards the party. What are you all doing right now? Because as you are, I've moved you all to the maps, which should be available for our viewers to be able to see. The party is sort of the bottom left corner of this, and these two bird-like little tokens on the map are representative of the griffins. But yeah, these two creatures are here on the map. What are you all doing? Because as you're this far away from them, I'll say just with passive perception, you can all very easily see that one of these creatures appears to open up its mouth, direct it towards a patch of the lavender, the slowly emerging lavender blossoms, and a cone of fire erupts out of its mouth.
Oh.
Blooms or?
They're firing at the blooms. They're still looking like you're all looking at the
I wasn't
road.
sure if the blooms were spitting fire or if
No.
Like...
No, the griffin. No, let's be clear. Not the blooms. The griffins are spitting fire, and I'd say, does anyone have a passive perception of at least 14 or 15?
Not me.
How do we
10 plus your perception skill. That'll tell you what your passive perception is.
My PP is 15.
Yes. You are.
Sorry.
God damn it.
Yes, I am totally a 12-year-old.
We are all children. I am simply wrangling a band
I
of.
said it that way on purpose.
I realized it after you said it and was about to repeat it. Cracking on. Bo, you are able to notice that there is what appears to be a fine, powdery, dust-like substance falling out of the griffin's mouths that seems to be left over after the one that unleashes this fire breath finishes burning a section of these lavender blooms and is still just trying to just start bending down and eating some of them. But they don't appear to have noticed you. What are you doing?
Can we just stealth past them?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I'd like that very much.
You can
I
certainly
say,
try.
not knowing if Bo has stealth at all.
We have to stealth past. Can we just walk around? Like, we don't have to stay on the path, do we?
You don't.
We can just leave.
Also, for further clarification for the players and for our viewers, all of these circles that you can see, those are all lavender patches. And you can all see that those all have crystals in them that are active currently, except for the one that we'll say this one on the left is eating. So just this circle patch over here is not currently active, but the rest of those are active lavender patches.
Yeah, why don't we just go back and circle around rather than trying to sneak past them?
Are they still flowers at this point, or are they kind of in chomp chomp mode?
Currently, they're in chomp chomp mode, but they are quickly being eaten by these creatures.
I walk back up the road.
You just go, nope.
No.
Yeah, both of them are turning around.
Yeah, I think they're gonna notice us at some point. That was sort of why I
I
suggested.
go back.
But the lavender patch, does that provide like any kind of cover?
Nope. All they provide currently in this, if this is becoming an encounter, or if this does become an encounter rather, is if you are a spellcaster or if you use any sort of magical abilities, which includes your key, you have no access to those while you're in
That's
the
not
circles.
Oh
Don't
yeah,
go in
'cause
the circles, guys.
Yep.
But what are you doing? Because right now you all are like currently where you're at positioned on the map, and the griffins are turning around.
I mean, if they're turning around toward us, we need to go back. I would
Yeah, I'm gonna go back.
back.
oh boy, I guess we should. Is there another way we can go? Is this the
Oh,
only path?
okay.
Oh god,
Okay. Okay.
I want to get off the boat. I can't leave the screen.
I should note for the record, out of character, these things have a flight speed of 80.
God damn.
Okay.
So
I'm gonna
one
hold
of these,
my hand out to like
I can't leave the screen.
sniff. And I'm gonna ready an action to Eldritch Blast if it bites. Like I'm just gonna stop moving and I'm gonna turn around and hold my hand out for it to sniff, and maybe like peck at the hand.
so you're holding your hand out. Was it for it to sit?
To sniff.
Oh, to sniff.
Like a cat.
Like
I
a
don't
cat.
or a dog or any other animal that's not human, because everything can smell better than we can. Hi.
Are they still flying or have they landed?
They've just sort of like floated a little bit off the ground and just flown over to all of you.
Are they able to hover?
Pretty much.
That's amazing.
They're standing right in front of you, and right now Baya is the only one who's like done anything to like reach out towards them.
I try to be sort of very calm and neutral, but not like.
I am very excited and bouncing.
Yeah, Bo is definitely trying to be like non-aggressive.
Okay,
I say words like hi.
Okay, so no one is, just to be clear, no one's taking any sort of aggressive action. You're just all sort of just being like, chill, be chill, dude,
Yep.
be cool.
Yeah, my Lapu's hands are out, like palms up. Like there's just unarmed, just hey there.
Need to just.
I was sitting on my shoulder.
Huh. Lapu, as a reminder, you do have as a furball the ability Speech of Beast and Leaf. You do have the ability to communicate in a very limited manner with beasts and plants. They understand what you will say.
Right.
But you can't understand what they say in return.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
just a reminder, because that is something you would know, and I know it's buried down there at the bottom of all the things that you can do. So just a reminder.
There's a lot of explanation. I'm just like, oh. Yeah. I have my hands are down, but my palms are like facing them, and I look straight to the griffin-like creature closest to me, and I just go, hello there, friend. My friends and I are just walking through. Like we mean you no harm. We just want to be on our way.
I noticed that Lapus can talk to them. I'm like, can you ask if they accept petting?
One sort of cocks its head very curiously towards Lapu. And like this thing, it's about, let's say, roughly like 10 feet full on in length and what have you, a couple of feet in width. Its wings outstretch a lot further than its full like length of the body, but It's just sort of just staring at you right now, Lapu, and it just sort of like leans in. It looks almost like it's expectant of something.
Ask if they're siblings? Can you ask if one of them is the parent of the other? Bounce, 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 bounce.
I just side eye Baya right now, and then I
do finger guns.
guns. No finger pointing.
The other one, its partner, is like the other one is getting like when you make the finger gun gesture, Baya.
Huh?
The other one gets a little bit agitated. It's not aggressive just yet, to be fair, but it's like.
Oh, don't do finger
I
guns.
freeze mid finger gun, like 45 degrees, and I'm like,
Yeah, put your hand down slowly if you can, Baya.
I sort of uncurl the finger.
To the closest one, I'm like, I'm sorry about my friend there. He's just very curious about you, and I have an arm. I reach out a hand towards the one nearest me, the one that's expectant. And I'm guessing that's the one closest to me.
Yes. It leans. It's very long. It's like full on like massive like parrot beak on its face. Just sort of leans in, and it just sort of like.
Oh, you're a sweet one, aren't you?
Baya, would you mind rolling me a wisdom saving throw real quick?
Oh no.
Oh no. Ooh.
Oh, that's
Okay.
good.
All right.
Okay, very good. You feel you hear, first of all, Baya, in your head, a snickering, a very familiar one, and you feel your hands start to move into an aggressive stance to try and fire off an eldritch blast outside of your control. But you manage to pull it off as just like tweaking the finger guns into like a different 45-degree angle. So it just goes to this now instead of like that. And you just hear like at least two voices in your head just like.
okay, mentally, I'm like, they're not even pretty. Acceptable targets, remember. And then out loud to Lapu, I'm like, is that a yes?
Well, I'm like petting the burnout. It's like, it's okay. We mean you no harm. My friend thinks you're very beautiful and he's very curious about you. He's been pretty sheltered his life. Would you mind if my other friends pet you the same as I'm touching you right now?
Lapu, roll me a persuasion check at advantage because of your ability, because they roughly understand what you're saying.
So persuasion.
Persuasion.
Pew.
Oh no.
No.
Uh-oh.
Ow.
They don't become hostile, but both of their feathers get like a little bit more ruffled up. And one of them gets a little bit closer, like more suspiciously towards Bo, like it starts sniffing her. It's like,
Bo like holds up her hands like, I'm really cool. I don't need to pet anybody.
Yeah, good job, Bo. They just want to get a feel for us.
You're ruffling up. Is that a yes or a no, Lapu?
It's right now. It's leaning more towards the no.
Fire is sad.
They're on the suspicious side, but maybe if we're cool like we are now, you might get a pet.
I'm gonna actually look over. Like I don't know this sort of animal, but I'm gonna look to see if along the body are there any signs of disease or any like bones that are malformed or anything that, based on like my knowledge of like anatomy of horses and the like.
yeah, I would say roll me a medicine check. You're going to get some information just for looking no matter what, but the details.
Okay.
Giant bird. Big bird.
I mean,
Your
do
takeaway is
they,
big bird.
Can
they
I
look
roll a
wide-
history
like-
check or something?
What was that? Wait, before I answer you, Didi,
Sorry.
Bo?
Yeah.
Bo, what were you saying?
I was like, do they look like wild? Like they're not, I don't want to say pets, but like they're not being taken care of by a humanoid of some sort, or are they
They're not
like,
domesticated.
right? Yes.
I'll say this comes down to survival more than nature, but Bo, roll me a
Okay.
survival check. Dee Dee, what was it that you were interested in doing?
Oh, have I ever heard of them or studied them in texts?
Yeah, Bo, relatively wild as far as you can tell. Nothing
Okay.
seems to be distinguishable in terms of like they don't have like any sort of collar or anything like that, but that's about as much information as you can get out of that kind of check.
Has-
Okay.
They
has-
seem relatively wild, but you don't know is more the takeaway where you
Right.
end up at. Dee Dee, I'd say roll me a nature check, and I think
Has
they're
Lapu
allowed to.
seen these kind of griffins?
I'd say also roll me a nature check, but not at advantage. These are probably a little less common for the kinds of places that you grew up in, Lapu. So just straight roll of nature. Zerlath is going to also roll nature. Zerlath does not know anything. Lapu, you've heard your siblings pass along some information about these. These are in fact griffins. They're just known to wander a lot of different areas, especially near the plains of Rudra, and for the most part, not actively hostile. Generally, just try and find plants or other small creatures to eat when they can. If they are startled, they do tend to counterattack and fly away as soon as they get too hurt. But this is a rather odd and unique variety of griffins, as you've never heard of any of these having what appears to be, as you can see a little bit more, you can see the sort of fine dust like substance that's sort of coated around the edges of the beak now that it's sort of like nuzzled up against your like fur and skin.
Mhm.
And you're able to take a second, feel it in your hand. It
Mhm.
almost looks like copper dust. It almost looks like maybe like they've been munching on like bits of copper.
I sniff the dust in my hand, and I kind of ask it out loud, but not necessarily a question to the to the griffin, but just like, what have you been eating? And then I kind of whisper or talk softly to Dee Dee or Baya, and I'm like, there's this substance in their beaks, and I sniff it again. It kind of, it's like a dust of copper or some sort of, I'm not sure, but I think maybe you would know.
What are you
Why?
getting from the smell? Does it smell like blood or iron or something? At all?
Nope. The texture and the consistency is just more in the range of like copper. It seems the most you can tell. This is the sort of full limitation of what your check got you, Lapu, is that it seems like they might have been consuming metals of some kind, copper most likely.
This looks metal in nature, and from what I know of these creatures, I've never seen one, but I don't think metal is part of their diet.
Do you
Would
think
we know if
crystals?
if griffins naturally can spit fire? Like, is that have something to do with what they've been eating, or is that something that they do?
I would say Dee Dee, roll me an Arcana check. Bo, roll me a Nature check.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, that's enough between the two of you. I'll say partially to add to the hilarity of the situation, but partially just to give you a sense of like what's going on. These are all like little whispered conversations you're having as the like griffins are just kind of like getting up close. Like the cliff notes of it is that Dee Dee, you know that sometimes certain creatures, when imbibing substances over time or living for long periods of time near a sort of magical source, so for example, certain lizard types that you can see all across of Agni can gain things like a natural fire aura or conduct electricity when they're near like pools of magic or sources of wild magic of any kind. Bo, I'd say you roll high enough with the combination of your knowledge now, what you're able to remember, and Lapu's knowledge, that likely these must be a variant of Griffin that must have gotten used to living near somewhere that must have had copper stores of some kind or some sort of metal substances that was available in the area and probably naturally developed its own sort of copper fire breath as a result. Its body has adapted over time to be able to process that and emit its own fire breath.
Whoa.
Yeah, what she said.
I'm gonna very slowly take out one of those like really valuable star sapphires and put it on the ground to see if like the creature plays with it.
Well,
Okay.
I fed it a rock.
It is no longer a fire breath.
but
It now appears to have gained some sort of twin breath of both fire and lightning.
With a big smile in my face and my tone completely friendly, I'm like, Bhaiya, you just made them even more deadly. What the fuck are you doing?
I'm like tugging on Lapu's whatever Lapu wears and like, can we keep it? Can we keep it? Can we keep it?
It's not a pet.
I can see it.
I'm still kind of petting the griffin, and I'm like, you don't want to be tied down with someone, do you, majestic one?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
The other one that's been a little bit more far away is like gets up closer to Paya.
Hi.
And it just starts like nuzzling against Paya. But I would like at this time for both Lapu and Paya to roll me an animal handling check just to see how well the overall vibe is. I'd say Lapu, you have advantage on it because you already established a rapport.
Hi.
So animal handling. Okay. Because you've established a rapport, the one that's near Lapu tends to be, it seems to react very positively and it's just like, huh, huh, huh. But you get a little bit more of a chilly response. It's not like angry or anything at you, not aggressive, but just sort of like leans close. It seems unsure. It doesn't know how to react around your presence.
Lapu, where are you scratching it? I'm not getting the same response you are.
Are you nervous right now?
No, I am super excited. I'm still bouncing up and down slightly.
I think your anxiousness is probably setting them off a bit.
I'm not anxious.
Well,
I'm not anxious. You know I'm not anxious, don't you? And I'm gonna like be excited in the general direction of the colder.
As you do that, as you're probably like, are you like petting and like giving like slight touches to it?
Yeah.
One of the touches just like imagine like on an occasion where the equivalent of someone has just done like a nice like a touch around your neck and you just get like a little like goosebump sort of effect. You have one of those with the griffin. It very narrowly breathes a 15-foot cone of fire in the direction of Bo, misses her.
Your hair is gonna burn.
I was like, come on.
So far, nothing. They're just sort of there.
Apu, tell me your secrets.
I actually don't know. And I look towards the other one. I'm like, it's okay. They just want to be friends. He just wants to be friends with you.
So can we like get the fuck out of here and like move past?
Yeah, like what would happen if we just tried to move past?
Are you trying to move past?
Imagine they were with us, sister, and then the cult comes after us, and then they lightning fry them.
I like where you're going with this, but it seems to me Lapu had mentioned they like staying here.
Yeah.
And I'm always like saying this in the most pleasant of tones and like smile plastered on my face.
Oh, did Lapu say that? I assume Lapu was like talking in animal speak the whole time to them.
It's clear, like for Lapu, like all of you are able to hear it as just normal, like
understood.
speech. Like it's not like Lapu isn't speaking Sylvan, to be clear. Lapu is still talking normally, but the creatures seem to like actually understand what Lapu is saying. Lapu doesn't understand what any of their signals in return, or what, like if they're cawing at them, what they're saying in return, but Lapu is able to just speak and like roughly like communicate with them.
I see.
But yeah, no, they both, one of them nuzzles up against Paya, the other one nuzzles up against Lapu. And then they just sort of start trotting over to another patch of the lavender, each of them on one side, which in all of this time you had not noticed is slowly starting to emerge again and start going in all of y'all's direction.
Get him, griffin creature.
Yeah.
Stream of fire breath again breathes towards one patch on the right, and now a stream of fire and lightning breathes at the side on the left. They don't seem to be in your path anymore.
Okay.
I'll start moving forward like
I'm gonna move forward.
birdies
Yeah.
as I'm going. And Kawa is also going.
I go to the one that I was petting for a while, and I give it a hug and I'm like, it was so nice meeting you. Be careful what you eat and take care, friend. I hope to see you again someday.
Lapu, ask yours if it wants lightning breath. As a parting gift.
Okay. And I go, friend, my friend, my friend, as you can see, your companion has new fire. And he would like to know if you would like that power as well.
Paya is gonna mime lightning breath.
It's doing almost like with its front feet. Its whole body is sort of doing the like weird, like almost like pigeon, like 2-step movement forward with its whole body.
Uh-huh.
It like nods its head up and down, but it releases a fire breath like pretty close to where you're at, Lapu. Like everyone just sort of kind of has to dodge out of the way without any damage. It's just like,
Ooh. He's that I think that's a strong yes. Go for it. Bye.
Angela, so I had 90 gold pieces worth of star sapphires.
You now have 80 pieces worth of star sapphire.
And if I give this one, is another 10 GP piece?
Yep, it's
Okay.
another, you will have 70 pieces of star sapphire.
I'm going to, okay, the last one, when it snapped it up out of the earth, is there like a divot in the earth now, or did it look really precise about how it snapped it up?
It was like very
so
precise. It was like it was unerringly fast how quickly and precisely it just scooped up the star sapphire when it was offered it.
So here's what I'm thinking. Like, I want to hand feed it, but I don't want to do that if there's like a scratch in the earth or something.
No, there's no scratch in the earth. There's nothing like that. It was just sort of like
hella hype. I'm gonna try to hand feed it a star sapphire.
okay.
Okay.
Roll me animal handling.
As he rolls, I whisper to the griffin.
I think you should use your offhand, Baya.
Be nice.
Bounce, 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 bounce.
Nice.
Oh, that's really good.
Okay, so because you rolled so well, I had it roll its attack at disadvantage. It rolled a 22 and an 8.
Dang.
So you very narrowly, as you're presenting this jewel to it, it's just very, it very nearly like beaks through like 4 of your fingers. But you managed to avoid it without any harm.
Ooh.
I look at Lapu, heedless of the danger, and I'm like, my eyes are star sapphires now. The star sapphire was in my the world is such a big place.
It's like full anime starburst eyes are now occurring.
Yeah.
Lapu is just amazed, just like, yeah, you did it, Baya.
How are you still alive?
Right?
I will take
So
your
it's like,
agreement.
I don't know how that didn't go horribly wrong, but glad it didn't.
Yeah.
I'll be like,
Yeah.
"My friends," and then jauntily I will walk along the path.
I look
Yeah.
to the griffin and I'm like, well, I hope you enjoy your new powers, friend. I hope you can protect you and yours.
Taps its feet on the ground, and then both of them like sidle up to each other. They do a sort of little quick pigeon two-step up to next to each other, and they both then sort of X pattern arcs at 45-degree angles in opposite directions, unleash the now
That's
fire.
Oh.
Here's the thing, though.
Oh,
One
no.
of them does a fire and lightning breath. The other one does a fire and cold breath.
Ah.
Nice. Nice.
You have now made you. Congratulations, everyone! You created a new species of elemental griffins.
Yes.
Go Baya.
Who's walking like with me, or is everyone walking? with
You're
me?
you're
We're
all
all
able to
walking.
pass at this point. They
Okay.
are
Yeah.
distracted, like
And
the,
I'm
the
looking-
griffins.
I'm looking back and going, bye.
Yeah, the griffins just paw the ground, and now they're just like seeing all of these circular patches that you're seeing around you on this stretch of the road. It's like very faint, but as you're walking away, Lapu, you see an almost like impish, gleeful expression on their face. If a bird could have an impish expression, and they all turn their breaths. They both turn their breaths to the patches, and just it's like flamethrower through the whole area
I'm
of where
like,
the
go
patches
for
are.
it. Go for it.
Okay.
I'm gonna like use my bard level, and I'm gonna just like sort of sing song at them and give one of them bardic inspiration as they gleefully destroy.
Aww.
And the inspiration
Rock on, Griffins.
and the inspiration is in general like it's in the form of like a sing song since they can't understand me for them, but for the party I'm just like, imagine like one day we'll be in our dire straits, and then out of the sky just a crisscross of fire and ice and lightning is going to save us, and it's going to be because these two remember us and we'll recognize them. It's going to be so exciting.
Yeah, I'm gonna note for the record, I rolled to see them attacking the patches as you walked away. One of them rolled a crit.
Yes.
Oof.
Just to add to the ridiculousness that you have caused by creating a new breed of elemental fire breath weapon griffins. Congratulations, everyone. I've never gotten to do that in a campaign before. You've created a new species.
New species.
Pokemon birds.
We
Lapu,
broke
do you think they breed
birds.
true?
Wait, what was that?
Lapu, do you think they'll breed true if they find mates, or if they are mates? I don't know.
I'm not sure if they're mates or not, but
What if
I
their
guess-
kids can breathe all three?
I guess we'll just have to see, won't we, Baya?
My eyes are stars. And this is the happiest I've been since I left the cult compound.
The
Which
DM did not. The
Which is
DM did not
partly-
think about the repercussions of this course of action.
Which is partly why Didi doesn't really say too much and just sort of looks at Baya and smiles just a little, even though Baya nearly lost an arm. We nearly got burnt to a crisp and various other things. It's like the last time I saw Baya like this, he was 5.
The rest of your day goes on without any incident. You see occasional, again, more of these lavender patches, the trenches of where obviously the rain falling down the previous evening has just deepened and soaked the earth and made it soft, and your footsteps, even along some of this well-worn path, it's been relatively well constructed for the most part. You find it winds and slowly ends at what appears to be almost a crossroads town that I think, given Bo's traveling experience, you would know that this is a sort of in-between town, more like a trading stop along the way to a lot of different locations that's roughly midpoint between heading towards the western terrains and the eastern terrains and the northern terrains. So basically it's like, I think there's a section in like the southwest where you can be at like all 4 different states if you stand on one spot effectively. Like you're having that kind of effect, but for a trading town. And this is a small little spot known as Inverness. And you're able to very easily, without too much trouble, if you would like to sort of camp here and set down for the night, it would cost whoever can pay it like 2 gold for the whole party to do like rooms for themselves, and you can just sit down and rest and chat and sleep in an actual place outside. You're still roughly at this rate, maybe a couple days away from Chantico region, but you're a lot of the way across the continent at this point after like these days of travel.
Academy in this town, or is it too small? It's a frontier town.
It's very bare. Like from what you can see, most of the town is just like relatively like small, like not like poor, but relatively shabby kind of homes. And what takes up a lot more of the space here is sort of like both pop-up shops and like vendor kind of stalls and like very mom and pop kind of stores. Like it's like one of those towns that you pass by as you're going across the states. It's like we have like 1,000 people here total, or like we have like 800 people who live here. It's very much just like a passing through kind of way, and it's normally treated as
like a rest stop sort of on the highway.
Yeah, think of it like akin to that, but like a relatively small town. It's not like the tiny size that a rest stop is while traveling, but think of it functionally as that kind of point. A lot of folks who would know it, and I think Bo would know this most of all, having passed through in her journeys. It's not really meant to be like a spot to stay in for that long. It's just where like a lot of trading caravans stop by in order to have like a rest point. Because from here, heading back south to Avis, it's a couple of days. Heading towards the western regions, it's a couple of days. Basically, wherever you want to go, if you want to head to the plains to the east, it's a couple of days. You want to head to Rock's Arrival to the west, it's a couple of days. You want to head to Chantico, it's a couple of days. This is pretty much the like center point of crossroads between all of those locations. But yeah, if there's anything anyone wants to do, just chilling out in an inn for once.
Yeah, I see if there's some sort of a library or magic shop, as in sort of magic materials and stuff. That would probably be my only curiosity.
I'd say, given the relative small size of the town, nothing too big along those lines. Like magic shops are a lot harder to come by. You need a sort of bigger city or something more along the lines of at least Avis, because Avis was not like ginormous the way that the capital is, because the capital is one of the biggest cities across the whole continent, but it was a sizable place where people had been established for a while. This is sort of treated as like no one really stays here that long, so no one needs to set down any roots here for that long. It's not really a big high traffic kind. It's a high traffic kind of place for traders, but not a high traffic place for people to stay.
Lots of transient people.
Yeah, it's very much like a transient kind of town. But if you wouldn't mind for me, Didi, could you roll a perception?
Sure.
Okay. While you're passing through the town, for the most part, you hear occasional folks talking, just going about their day, chatting about different things. But I'll say, because you rolled so high with your perception, you do pick up one bit of information that stands out given what your party's been dealing with the past couple of days. You see what seems like very deep kind of cherry red skinned tiefling with sort of not super prominent horns, more like pointy, spiny kind of like horns. Relative like light leather armor, seems like probably do merc work on the side, but not very good at it. And what seems like a very old halfling, like the kind of one who you look at him is like, motherfucker is old as hell, like super wrinkly skin, deep like gray and silver hair. He's got like a almost looks like a hand rolled cigarette in his hand. He's wearing like really shaggy like basic tunic and pants that look like they've pretty scuffed up. And you just overhear him talking to this tiefling. He's like, "Well, if I'm being honest with all you, you gotta be careful about what you're doing when you're wandering around the town. And been hearing someone getting abducted every now and then. There's some fellas who tried to just go out on their own. They hear sounds like a baby cry going all around the area. Then they hear some sounds like feathers or flying around, and it gets scooped up, and no one ever hears from them again. Someone keep talking about someone by the name of Owl Woman. I don't know. Not drunk enough to tell you anything real directly." What are you looking at?
Nothing? You say owl person.
Yeah, it looks like it's kind of like an owl person. It's just wandering around somewhere over there. I don't know.
And had wings and talon arms? Or feet?
Yeah, yeah. Do you hear the baby cry too?
Yeah, we heard it on the road, but they seemed really shy.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the case. A lot of men been disappearing from the town lately. Been saying folks who survive them, boyfriends, girlfriends, wives, husbands, in between and all that. No one seems to say they can ever come back. Seems like wherever they are, they have a soft spot for men.
Hide your kids, hide your wife.
I mean, that's fair. Not as young as I used to be, but I can still cause havoc. He also starts getting uncomfortably close to you, Dee Dee. Like he's not a very he's a very scummy looking man. The vibe you're getting off of him, and he's like starting to like think that you're coming on to him because you're giving him attention.
Okay, bye. And I just and I sort of do like, okay, bye, and I turn and walk away.
Yeah, all right. Missing out on the grand opportunity, man. Heard a lot of things, seen a lot of stuff, heard a lot of songs blown in the wind. It's pretty great. But
Can
oh
I
well.
silently cast, or rather surreptitiously cast Cage Hand?
Yes. I'm not even going to have you roll a stealth check, a sleight of hand check for that because I think this is funny.
So I very surreptitiously do that and just walk away as the spell happens.
Yeah, the last thing you hear is, the hell's with this cage?
What the hell?
Feels like being back on Maggie's farm again. I'm gonna go back on Maggie's farm. Last thing I do, motherfucker. Damn, goblins and all that. Yeah, I'll deal with this some another time. I'm out. Yeah. So you're able to walk away, and that's the last situation. Welcome to meeting Halfling Bob Dylan.
Can I be? I'm not actively doing anything, but I just want to sort of hang around in the inn area and be like listening for like Griffin-related rumors because I'm excited.
Roll me perception in that case. Just see what you hear and pick up.
Nice.
Very good.
So you start hearing just a little bit, very, very rowdy folk. You hear a lot of the same kind of things that Dee Dee hears, and you hear probably sometime after Dee Dee's had that conversation with Halfling Bob Dylan, that you hear him come into the tavern just kind of upset. And he's sort of like just talking still about the owl woman creature who, but you get a few more details as he's sort of talking to someone else that there's apparently a local legend about that folks have dubbed this owl woman creature by the title of La Lechuza. I'll put in the actual description correctly for you. But you hear about that, and you also hear like a couple other folks just kind of come in, like a couple of dudes just come into the bar, like this really grisly old orc, like full on beard, like heavy tusks and everything, deep, sort of gray green skin, and sort of like, I've never seen that before. If I can shoot cold breath and fire breath and lightning, I've never seen that before. I'm alive. I made it here. I'm actually alive.
Oh, I think they met the
you know
Griffins,
you could-
Baya.
I'm super excited. Is Lapu around?
Yeah, I think I come back with like, and I'm just kind of like munching on like a pastry or something, just snacking, and I'm like, what did you hear? What did I miss?
Wait. Okay, I'm gonna pull my hood up and I'm going to use Mask of Many Faces so that like my face becomes that person's face, and I'm going to try to repeat what they just said as closely as I can. I'm going to, that's what you missed. And then my face is going to go back to normal, and I'm going to be like, so exciting.
Thank you for that reenactment.
Yeah.
That's great, but I'm also kind of worried that we might have other people in danger because of what we did.
But griffins.
Well, they are.
Adult reaction, childhood reaction.
They
It's
were
cool. It's cool, and it's killing people.
They were cute though, but I just hope people don't usually have the same reactions as we did.
They
I
might
mean,
also
as long as they're
down and kill.
non-violent toward the griffins, they didn't attack us when we weren't aggressive.
How do people normally react to with majestic creatures like that?
Weapons.
We should find them and hang a sign on their neck that says "No weapons."
Uh,
That's a no.
I'm not sure that would work.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
That should have been no.
Bo, it's about this time that you probably catch out of the corner of your eye while Bai is like excitedly talking about this. You overhear and see someone who looks like they were once was 5 fingers, is now 2 fingers. It's once again a very old, like almost crotchety, like old woman who's like, oh, dear, I went out to feed the cows, to take care of them, and it was, it was fine. It went well. And then the griffin showed up, and then, it happens. But, that's kind of the price you pay with living out here, don't you know? It's terrible. It's, yeah, I don't have all my fingers anymore. They were very happy to be around. They ate my cow. And then they ate my fingers. They tried to burn me. But, it's all right. My day is going to be pretty good.
Did you offer your fingers to them?
Oh, no. Oh, no. I just happened to go near them.
Okay. And they just thought, I'll just take this person's fingers.
Those are
Well, I think they got
snacks.
agitated. Occasionally people get startled by the whole, old thing. Because for whatever reason, people are scared of being old. And I think the creatures are too.
Oh, okay. So you didn't do anything that may have made them say, I gotta take this lady's fingers.
I mean, I don't rightly know what kinds of things you do in your everyday life, but I don't actively go out and try and do anything to ask for my fingers to get taken off.
Oh no, that's fair. Just we were non-aggressive toward them. So
Were you
I
carrying
just
any
feel like
weapons?
maybe if you gave them a cow, so I don't know. It just seems like maybe you may have done something that incited them to want your fingers.
Oh, well,
Just me, maybe.
well, as far as I can tell, they might have been agitated by something else, but don't know, to be quite honest.
Were you carrying a stick?
Points to like very obvious cane that she's like leaning on the entire time, with like now sort of like a like this kind of gesture to hold it around the top and like keep her pressure to lean on it. It's like, well, I did happen to hear an owl nearby. Then I heard a baby, and it might have startled them. Now that I think about it, I don't think the griffin was trying to actually eat me. I think it was just scared.
I hear that part about the baby and the owl, and so I'm sorry, did you say something about a baby and an owl crying?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. We have those. We have those around here. It's pretty. They're we have those rumors around here. It's supposed to be like an old woman who used to be around here. Used to the way the old story used to go is that she used to have a husband around here who cheated on her. She got kind of angry, and she used to be a druid of some kind, but don't frankly know too much about magic, if I'm being entirely honest. But a lot of folks say heart got broken, and she never let go of that grudge. Now she just sort of wanders around, just trying to prey on different folks who seem either helpless or seem like they kind of deserve what they're going to get. At least that's what the stories say.
When did you hear this? When did you hear this? The owl or the baby? Was it late at night?
Oh yeah, it was roughly kind of late. I was frankly just trying to tend to some of the fields that are around here. Just try and go see if I can collect some lavender patches, see what happens. And then heard the noises. Had enough sense to not try and pursue them.
I go to the. Lapu says to the group, "I heard this on on the watch before the night before we met the Griffins. It was an owl hooting, and before that there was a baby cry, just like what everyone in the town is talking about."
Yeah, that's what Kawa told me as well. And when I sent Kawa to go investigate it, I found the creature and I described the creature.
We're not able to hear you right now. It's your mic.
The creature flew away, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it seemed to get startled by Kawa and fled.
Well, then we have a tool. If that creature comes, we have your familiar crow at it.
I get the sense, if we are to believe the legend as true, this creature doesn't go after innocent bystanders. They go after people that they think are in the wrong.
Well, I don't know how a creature like that thinks about wrong, but
I don't
far
either.
back.
But
Maybe
that
we could ask more about these men who have disappeared.
I was thinking the same thing. In fact, I even wonder if, because we know several things, if we are to believe this lore to be true, that they were once not animalistic, and two, that they're a druid. And I know druids have some sort of shape-shifting abilities. And three, that means they must have some sort of a human form or some way of hearing all these news. So to confirm all of this, we should see what the people who were carried away were like. If they actually have some reason that, someone has grievances against them, then perhaps we can find a way in which those grievances reach this creature.
Why?
Because it's not like the creature magically knows that they are.
No. Why? Didi, I think you have a saving people thing.
Well, I'm thinking about it from your end. You clearly like those griffins. If the griffins make any more of a nuisance of themselves, you know what happens to creatures that get too powerful? Hunters.
They get hunted, yes.
If you want them to live and have little babies with three flamed breaths, then they need to live long enough to do that. And then their children have to live long enough to do that. And if they get any more attention, they're gonna get hunted down.
So you want to go after the men who are targeted by the owl woman who we saw, who you can scare away easily, so that because you're thinking of me and you want the griffins to survive so they can have babies? Am I hearing you right?
Look, Baya,
Yes. However,
it makes perfect sense to Dee Dee. So, she's your older sister.
Like,
So
however, the other thing to keep in mind is if we can find a way to not kill the owl lady, because it seems like the owl lady is doing some sort of a service, then perhaps the heat is taken off of all three of them.
The way to not kill the owl lady is just to like not do anything about this and leave, right?
We could also leave, but
I was thinking we learned that the griffins like cows, so we should get rich as quick as we can so we can buy cows so we can get them to follow us forever because we have all the cows.
Are you trying to
you
lure
know,
the griffin? Is
I'm
that
gonna go upstairs
what you
right
do?
now and learn a new spell. Excuse me, and just gets up and leaves.
Yes, I want to lure them because they're cool and I want them to like us.
I
And we
go.
just learned to eat cows.
we should leave the griffins alone? And you've clearly like driven Dee Dee away. They're fed up with you, so maybe we should just stop talking about trying to follow or find the griffins for the moment.
Okay, sure. We can drop it.
As a side note, Bo, the old lady has just been chilling right next to you throughout this entire conversation. This has been happening. She's just been like very
course.
dutifully just right there, like holding onto her
Sure.
cane, and like she holds up a very tall glass, like almost tankard style kind of like container. She's like, "Hey, would you care for a drink?"
Sure. Bo says and takes it and drinks it immediately without even asking what it is.
Roll me a Constitution saving throw.
That,
Nice.
yeah.
Okay, that's impressive because the DC was 20. Because Bo, this is
Bo.
possibly the strongest alcohol that you have ever tasted. Like you, even with that save, like you have a moment of just being like,
Yeah.
whoa.
Ooh.
And you see right next to the old lady at a little like circular table right next to her is an even bigger glass that she is like very casually just taking like big sips out of. And like she seems entirely unfazed by this entire thing. Like, pretty strong now, isn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that was. Yeah, that was strong. It was good though. Do you make this yourself?
Oh no, I just happen to have it.
Just have it, just appears.
You see her pull out from a bag that seems relatively inconspicuous for the most part, and it doesn't seem that big, but she reaches her hand into it and pulls out a rather obnoxiously large flask that you hear, like, and mind you, the flask is much bigger than the bag should be, and you hear a bunch of liquid sloshing around in it. But before she does that, like this glass, which yours was about this big, hers is about this big. She just
Okay.
downs the entire thing, and she doesn't look like her composure or anything has changed at all. And she just brings out the flask again and starts adding more to it. Would you care for some more?
You know, I my heart wants to say yes, but
My liver does not.
screw my liver.
Lip
my
needs a
my
liver.
head says that I should definitely see what the rest of my companions are doing before I get trashed, because there's a possibility we might actually have to do something that I need my faculties for.
Sitting there, bemused and amused as well. By this
Apu
fake
was
competitive
fascinated
tension.
by the drink, or the conversation between the interaction was just like, wow.
Yeah, and mind you, this lady is like she's hunched over, but even like if she were at like standing up like at her full height, like straightened up, she's maybe like 5'3" max. Like you're like Lapu, you're towering over her, and she just deep brown skin, very, very faded, old gray and silver hair, deep creases and wrinkles along her face, wearing what seems like a very like bright, like it seems she seems both like very like tired and easygoing, but also she seems kind of dressed like she's out for a night on the town. Like she has like almost like a nice, cute little like skirt and top with her, and she's just like very like holding her composure together and all of this.
Bo is gonna say, I didn't catch your name to the old woman.
It's Olga.
Olga. So what do you know about these men who have disappeared from the town?
Oh, they were fuck ups. Just takes another like says it very directly, and then she just takes another like full drink.
Well, Baya, did you hear that?
Yeah.
They were fuck ups, she said. So, you know.
I turn to Olga and Lapu says, "Well, thank you for your thank you for your story thus far, friend. But has there been investigations or searches for this owl person? Or because it seems to me that if this owl person takes the fuck ups, as you say, then maybe people might not be so worried about this."
Well, it depends on the day. Sometimes I just happen to go and just get some folks who, around the town, you hear stories like they cheated on their wife, they cheated on their husband, they cheated on their 3 girlfriends, that kind of thing.
Oh.
A lot of cheating kind of stories.
Wait. Someone had 3 girlfriends and still had time to cheat?
Folks don't always have much to do around here, so they like traveling and experimenting around. There's not much to do in Inverness.
Okay.
Like, and mind you, like, there's no judgment in her tone. There's nothing like that. She's just like very straight faced and like even toned the entire time she's saying all of these things.
What's with the baby crying? That is the thing that seems to happen before the owl attacks someone, like before someone disappears.
Oh, depending on some tales of the story you used to hear. Some folks used to say that the woman that became the owl, this owl spirit, owl woman, whatever you call her, she was going to have a child before husband cheated on her, and that some say the child was lost in confrontation, or that the child, in a way, granted her powers as a last act of vengeance. Well, it happens. These kinds of things. Druids are weird.
I hear that.
Did you
Again,
mention
this is big ass, full-on tankard style. She's just taking another sip, and then you see her pull out like a smaller flask, like in comparison to the other one that you hear liquid around it, but the smell you can have coming off of that, it's just water. But like for every like at this point, like 2 or 3 cups of this full tankard that she's drinking of alcohol, it's like half a cup of water she's matching it with.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. As much as I really would love to stay here and imbibe, maybe we should go tell Dee Dee this information that we just found out.
One more question, if you don't mind, Olga. Did you mention there were any survivors? Is there someone else we can talk to that's maybe encountered?
Oh no, they're all dead.
Oh.
Max death.
Like confirmed you've found their bodies?
Oh well, we didn't find a full body. We found a finger, we found an arm, we found a chest, those kinds of things,
They rest in peace.
Okay. Yeah, I guess. I mean, though someone could lose a finger and still be alive.
Oh, I don't know if that's going to be the case if they don't have their heart or their liver either. Just takes another drink.
Right.
You know, for all that we're saying that druids are weird, this druid sounds like way more normal than these people that she's killing. Like, I very much approve. Just want to say that.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I'm transcribing another spell.
From the joke book?
From the
joke
book?
No, you don't have to do it right now, but it's like while this entire conversation is happening.
Roll D10, roll real quick. I think we have enough time to roll this one in because I have only one little like additional beat that I could do for when the next day happens, but just roll D10.
10.
Oh, 10. Okay. So let's see. Oh God.
Is it Maya again?
No. So Didi, this is on this occasion, this is terrible abyssal script. I'll put it to you this way. It's as bad in terms of translation as if someone was like, oh, Chinese and Japanese are the same language, right? Where it's that level of bad interchanging, like that bad.
Okay.
And you start doing the incantation and the gestures, and it seems oddly familiar, like the gestures that you would do for gentle repose.
Yep.
But as you start moving your hands around, you feel all of a sudden a 2-pound sack of what sounds like grains suddenly appear out of the air in front of you and almost beam you in the head.
Oh.
And
watch out!
And oddly enough, this also seems to. I'm going to roll this again just because this is funny. This is a fun joke spell.
I just watch.
Lapu. An additional bag of this grain appears above your head. Just at random.
I watch as it goes towards Didi, and then I see like a shadow, and I just look up and I'm like, what? And then it just comes on me.
Yeah, and as it crashes on top of your head, Lapu, you look into the bag and you notice that this bag is full of lentils. And Didi, you reread the transcription and you realize that while this should be the gestures and stylistic characteristics of gentle repose, someone appears to have done the translation work so poorly that it appears to have come out as lentil repose.
Keep lentils fresh.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, when you look in and you smell the bag, the lentils are like incredibly fresh. Like, and it seems like if you do the gestures again, like their freshness is maintained.
This way we can have better rations on the road. Yes, I am totally transcribing this spell.
Can we not have it aim for people's heads?
Bo is like, well, I was gonna try and replenish our rations, but
don't have to now.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, the evening is able to continue from there on out without any other incident. The next day comes, and yeah, you're able to leave the town and continue heading north towards Chantico, should the group choose to do so.
Was this the same direction that the owl and the baby sounds were coming from?
Relatively speaking, yes.
Okay.
But you're able to carry on, and occasionally you still see lavender blooms and things of that sort, but now they seem to be less common. There's more wildflowers and occasional sunflowers, but as you're passing one of these other stretches of the road heading northwards, you come across a point where you feel more than anything else to your east, this intense sudden wind pickup. Like, it's not quite like gale force levels, but it's noticeable. Like, if you have long hair, you're having almost a full on like, L'Oreal like model like flowing hair and the wind kind of effect.
Bollywood.
Going back. Yes, it is effectively a Bollywood moment in that instance. And then you see to the west of you, suddenly the terrain starts shifting and becoming sandy and coarse. And you see almost full-on dunes out as far as your eye can see, just about like 120, 200 feet out in the distance. The terrain just suddenly shifts to sand and dunes.
Does it smell like beach, like salt water, or like
Smells
that sort of thing?
like copper.
I go to the sand and scoop it up in my hands just to feel it. Does it feel like what I felt with
Yep.
the griffins?
You get the suspicion that likely the griffins must have come from somewhere in this direction. And from just your passive perception, Lapu, you're able to see out in the distance what look like bugs just digging in and out of the sand. Nothing heading your direction, mind you, nothing aggressive, but you see, what does that look like? You've seen these bugs before as you're looking out. Is that a beetle? But wait, it can't be a beetle. A beetle isn't that big. It shouldn't be this 15, 20 feet in length.
Oh,
It's like a 20-foot like long hair-cross fire beetle that you've seen much smaller versions of these native to the forest.
Those are a lot bigger than what I'm used to. Hey folks, I think I found our food source for our griffin friends, but are you seeing these bugs too?
can we all see them?
Yep. Just long
yeah.
beetles way out there, whole massive carapace armored with like long sort of point. It's basically like, for anyone for Pokemon fans, it's basically just beetle like it's quadrupedal, almost like Heracross, like all over there, but just fire beetle in style. And yeah, they're just chilling out there, but it looks like they seem to like.
Huh.
And oddly enough, Lapu, you can see someone riding one of them.
What?
Riding a beetle?
Yep.
That beetle's big.
Ooh,
Someone
yeah.
is riding that beetle? Can I tell from afar if they're humanoid or?
I'd say roll me perception.
Okay.
The sand that the landscape has kind of shifted to, is that is it like a blowy sand, like you sort of walk on top of, or is it like deeper?
As you walk along it, your feet kind of sink into it. You're not in like quicksand level territory, but you just start kind of sinking into it a little bit. And Lapu, with that kind of roll, yeah, you can't tell. It looks maybe a humanoidish shape, but I would also like everyone to roll me. Let me see about this. Let me double check something real quick. Is this the one? No, not that one. Where's the first? There they are. There they are. Yes. I would like everyone to roll me a dexterity check. This is going to be the last check.
Dexterity
A
check.
check or a saving throw?
Check.
Okay. Ooh. We're not very dexterous.
Oh, there it is.
Oh wow! Look
Ooh,
at
well,
that.
that was a save, but even then, like -2, that you're still 19.
Sorry.
No worries. I'm gonna say
Dexterity on my.
You click on the stat itself.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
so.
Sorry.
But I'm gonna say Baya and Azeralath actually. I'm gonna have.
Should I re-roll?
No. You're fine. I already did the minusing for it.
Okay.
But this is going to be the last thing to sort of finish off the session.
Okay.
This is going to be, yeah, that's 14, and yeah, that's 24. That's going to be 8 points of damage at Azeralath, and then
Whoa.
towards Baya, that's going to be another 6 points of piercing damage, as hidden along some of the like flower blooms that have been on the right side where the Rudra in the direction of the plains and the wind. You all turn around. The only ones who are able to notice in time are actually the only one who notices in time is Lapu, as suddenly you just see 2 arrows just go and pierce into Baya, and the other one pierce into Zerlath.
Whoa,
Oh,
Maya.
no.
And you also hear a
Uh-oh.
like a massive,
That's not
like
good.
you hear a yell emanating out, and you see a furbolg emerge from farther down the road wielding a great axe.
Huh.
Uh-oh.
And they look strangely similar to Lapu.
Uh-oh.
And that's where we're going to end tonight's session.
Ah.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah,
Dun, dun, dun.
And,
thank you.
Tune in next week.
Tune in next week as our team deals with a ambush attack. So we are at the end of our session for this evening. We are about to close roughly on time.
Ah.
Woo!
I want to thank everyone who took the time to tune in to us. Any folks in the chat, I wasn't able to monitor as well, but to any of you who were able to stop by, and if there are any folks subbing, hosting, rating, any of that, thank you for taking time to come in. We love you all. We love the attention you give us, and we love that you're supporting our wonderful group. I'm uncertain if we are rating. I'll have to double check. I don't think usually we raid because most folks are like tuned out at this point because our hour is like the latest into the night, so I don't think we normally go through with that. But as a quick recheck-in with everyone else, folks, I'm going to go around real quick. Everyone just sort of say who you are, where we can find you on the interwebs, because folks need to know that our group is not just amazing players, but we have folks involved in other projects as well. So I'm going to start with our amazing Bo.
Hello, I'm Lily. You can find me at Elise on Life on Twitter. I'm here in Agni on Saturday nights, and I also do Visible, Vibrant, and Victorious 3B, which is another Welcome Party RPG stream that happens on Sundays. And I am part of a actual play Star Wars podcast called Misfits of Space.
Wonderful. Next, we move over to our very startled but appear to be Griffin Whisperer Lapu.
My new babies. My new Griffin babies.
My new fire breathing babies.
My new fire, ice, thunder breathing babies. Yes, well, I am Gemma. I played Lapu, the monk Furbolg, who is now a Griffin Whisperer, apparently. You can find me on Twitter at Sweet and Bitter Gem. I'm also on Kupo Night. The O is a 0. You can find me there as well, and that's mostly my RPG Twitter account. So you'll most likely find me there gushing about Welcome to the Party. I am usually here on Saturday nights with all these lovely people, and then Sunday nights with here at Welcome to the Party for Emissaries of Avithna, with my cohort Didi / Mariam, and you don't see her on screen, but our awesome producer Fox Barrett. I see you, Fox. I see you. But unfortunately, I will not be here next Saturday because I will be on a panel for my podcast at San Diego Comic-Con.
Woo!
I'll be in San Diego, and the podcast is the panel is Filipinx Voices in Podcasting. So it's just going to be representing of all Filipinx voices, and I'll be representing my podcast, which is Diverse Geeks in Focus, which raises marginalized voices in geek culture. So please, if you're in San Diego, come hang out Friday night, San Diego Central Library from 5 to 6. We're just going to talk about people of color and raising voices up. And yeah, that's about it.
Filipinx. Next up, our wonderful yet very comedy of errors this session, Fiendlock Boy. Hiya.
I'm Anthony. I'm a part-time bartender. I play Paya, and you can find me on Discord as Jodro7209. I also have a blog where I write about D&D and stuff called DungeonAntology.com.
Wonderful. And last but not least, our purveyor of chaos and joke-related spells related to lentils, cages, and other materials. PD.
Hi, I'm Miriam, and you can find me on Twitter at media_junkie. I basically live online on Saturdays and Sundays. I am here. In addition, I can usually be found also in 3V, usually either running or playing games. And also, like Gemma said, on Emissaries of Avitna. I am also the GM for the Musafirs podcast, which is an actual play decolonized D&D podcast. We are now 5 episodes strong, which is woo! And we have a special guest. We just finished recording, and details for that will come out soon. Yeah, I'm probably also doing quite a few other things, but I can't remember them all.
So much. Just
When you do all the things, you cannot
All the
remember all
things.
of them.
Right.
There's too much good. But hi, I am Angela, otherwise known as the prelate to Ignis here, and Adventures in Agni as the DM. I am also known as Phoenix24Fem on Twitter, or the other tag name I just switched to, which is the Philosopheme, which is very fitting of me. And you can find me on Patreon also as the Philosopheme. I am a poet, a writer, and just I do a lot of TTRPG stuff related to just speaking a lot about trans, queer, disabled, and POC perspectives and diversity in gamings, because we've been here for decades. Just people did actually want to remember that we exist actively. They just sort of remembered as an afterthought. And we, as always, are reclaiming our space and reminding people we have always been here. And so, yeah, I do all of those things. And I'm also not this weekend, but I think it's next weekend, going to be involved in a 3v1 shot with, I think it's Lily and
Yes.
Miriam. So we're going to be playing Monster Hearts on 3v, Vibrant, Visible, and Victorious. So we're going to have all the queer feels. And I made a character that is,
I'm gonna
I
miss
already
it.
have a lot of feelings. And we haven't even played yet. So this is going to be interesting. So thank you again to all the viewers who stayed with us to this late hour. We love you all. We thank you for supporting us. And as always, I will end with my little Agni-related spiel to wish you all well for the weekend. So, no matter what happens, whether your travels be filled with sadness, anger, hilarity, yeeting, or just memes and other silliness and feelsy moments, we wish you the best for this weekend. DM Ange loves you. Our players, thank you so much. And we wish you the best of weekends. And may the light of Agni keep you warm and safe through your travels. Thank you, everybody, and have a wonderful weekend.
Night.
Bye.